You know, it's something that we all need to understand, that the idea of minority is contextual. It is there in experience of the being in a setting, and to be done like that. I was introduced as somebody who taught in NEHU Department of Linguistics, and I can promise you those were the best years of my teaching career. And if God were to ever give me rebirth, I would like to be born and come and teach only in Shillong and pick up my own department of linguistics to teach there, because I was the first faculty member of linguistics to be appointed in Nagaland in 1988, and I set up the Department of Linguistics. I'm glad it is flourishing now in Shillong, and you have very diverse students coming. Melissa was from a batch of students where there were people, there was the Zonka speaker, there were Ao speaker, there were Mao speaker, there were Panar speaker, there were Mizo speakers, and all the diverse people in the same classroom. So we used to enjoy seeing, experience diversity on a day-to-day basis. Now, coming back to the very important theme that we are addressing, the idea of taking up the case of minorities in education and involving the minorities in their own education. See, and remember, the constitutional vision of this country is of we the people. There is no such distinction between a language, religion, things like that in that overall conception. The idea is that we will all set aside our micro level identities and merge. Like Ambedkar said, I'm an Indian first, an Indian last, an Indian between. The idea that we will come together as co-sharers of a common destiny that we want to do. But we have to be sensitive that there are lots of people who have apprehensions about what it means to become a part of a larger setting, what it means to become so-called mainstream. They even view somebody started presenting. So people start view, the idea of mainstream also with some sort of a suspicion. And they don't think that mainstream is a great idea for many of these people. They think that the mainstream is not the very best place. They prefer to be in their own cultural worlds, in their own smaller streams, in their own forests, with their own rights, with their own resources. And they are not very happy when people try to drag them in the idea of mainstreaming. So mainstreaming is a very questionable and a political construct which needs to be rethought and reworked. And we need to think of that. I also feel Northeast is much more special in terms of minority communities than any other part of the country. Now, Northeast is itself so diverse because in Northeast India, the tribals, many of them are in power. The chief ministers of Nagaland are all Nagas. The chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh is always a person from a tribe from Arunachal. In Meghalaya, it has to be one of the tribals here. In Mizoram, it is one of the tribals there. So the tribes are in power in many of the states, you see themselves. In Assam, of course, the Assamese are a majority community, and largely you have never probably had chief ministers of the tribal origin in Assam. But, there are also these other things. In Manipur, you have had even a tribal become a chief minister, along with the Meiteis who are in the majority. You also had somebody from the Tangpal community becoming a chief minister. So the Northeast is a far different experience for all of us who want to engage with minorities. And the lessons that we draw from the Northeast have important sort of lessons for the entire country. We should look at Northeast as a place, as a fertile area in the areas of empowerment of tribes, in empowerment of communities, and in empowerment. All the languages may not have got equal treatment. All of them may not have had equal share of resources. They may not all enjoy equal status. But the overall ethos has been created. An ecology has been created where you can value the tribal communities, the issues, and then we will engage. I'll come back and talk to the Northeast. But in contrast with it, for example, when I was being introduced, you were told that I had worked in places like Rajasthan tribes and Nagara Haveli tribes with the Bhil speaking. Now, if you go to the census of India, Bhili is shown as one language, with so many mother tongues under it. And actually, those mother tongues, say we have a Bagadi mother tongue in Rajasthan. We have Varli, Dungar Varli, Dabar Varli in Silvassa, and things like that. So there is Bhili itself in Ratlam in Madhya Pradesh. So there's Bhili is a huge language sort of a construct with so many mother tongues under it and all that. So I was working in Rajasthan with those communities there, and there you feel the people who are hardly in power. There you feel that their languages are not at all getting the kind of treatment in the schools. So the very situation in those schools, they were the lowest literacy belts in the country. There was, when I was working, there was hardly 10% literacy in those areas. I'm talking of 35 years back. So, it was a very different situation. So it was there that I experienced a very important feature of linguistic diversity among tribes. You have geographically differentiated varieties, yes, but socially differentiated varieties are hardly there, because many of the tribal communities don't have class systems or caste systems. You see, and I think this is something, when we work on tribal communities, we must be prepared that to examine the nature of linguistic variation is rather different. Well, I think some of the other mics are on. Because I am finding echoing in this.
Ma'am Devi, kindly switch off the speaker. Ma'am Devi, please switch off the speaker.
I'm getting a lot of echoing because some mics are on.
Sorry, sir, just a minute.
Arjubala's mic is on. Rajayanti Devi's mic is on. Okay. So may I was making a point about the idea of language and several mother tongues within it. And within the mother tongue, there is variation across. And in tribal areas, geographical variation is there, like any other languages. But socially differentiated varieties are far fewer. And it gives you a realization that the caste kind of hierarchy is absent, the class hierarchy is sort of absent. So when you work on these communities, be sensitive to the idea of variation as geographical, as located there. So when you want to work on languages, you have to be very sensitive to that. Now, when we started working with Rajasthan, we built timers there, we had training programs there, we did testing. I have myself tested thousands of children in my own, going and sitting with them, talking to them, giving them word lists, trying to get data from them, making them write. And I've had a good feel of the kind of issues that they had about writing in the standard language. School language was Hindi. So there we made a whole program of trying to introduce Wagadi language along with Hindi to make children take to bilingual education. And I learned a lot of lessons in that process. Also, the lesson was some of the tribal leaders did not want the tribal language to be used. They said, you're trying to deprive us of the school language early. Let us have only Hindi. Why are you trying to bring our language? So there was a whole battle. So in engaging with language education, there is a whole battle for things and against certain things. To educate people about the need for their own mother tongue. We think that the demand for mother tongue is there. But sometimes the demand for mother tongue is muted. They have already got conditioned by the elites thinking. They think that the languages of power and opportunity are the things for them. They are willing to set aside their own linguistic rights. They want to straight away proceed on the path of power and development and get into languages of powers. And lots of people, for example, do that. So there are important lessons. See, we used to do in programs in the Northeast when I came to Mysore and we were working there. We used to do what was called community consultation programs. So, for example, we went to Arunachal Pradesh and the NCERT officials were with also us, and the chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh, Gagang, Apang, and the governor was there, and all the communities were there one by one. And for 3 days, we were conferring about what happens to all the communities there, because the languages were not having a foothold in the schools. So we wanted them to start this process of there. In Arunachal Pradesh, Hindi and English are like the two languages which are so widely prevalent and used, and mother tongues occupy a lower footing. When we went, we found that in schools we had to go and then pick up the issue of trying to put into schools. And many children had never ever written their mother tongue, had no informal literacy practices also in the language at that time. I'm talking of 2005, about 15 years back, when there were hardly any literacy practices in their languages. There was a small attempt being made by some missionaries and all that, but missionaries were also viewed with a different kind of a mind frame and all that. So nobody had a free hand of literacy. There was no church literature. There was no very little other literature, and people were living in the tribal worlds. But I want to take up an example. We reached a place in a Galo area just beyond Taporicho, and there was a school being run by the DC's wife. And we went to the class 1-2 children. And this school, the children could read and write Hindi and English by class 1 and 2. They were all competent. They were able to write that. So when we started telling them, what is the word for the nose? So somebody, minpun, something like that. Can you write it? The children are asking me, हम हिंदी से लिखेगा कि इंग्लिश से लिखेगा? Children, can you believe? They were willing to write their language with Devanagari script and Roman script both. Though they had acquired the literacy, the scripts in English and Hindi, they were able to transfer those literacy skills to write their mother tongue. They had not begun with mother tongue education, but they were able to transfer the literacy skills quickly to write mother tongues. So this is where, when we start thinking that when you think that you must begin with mother tongue, it's not always necessary. The multilingual ethos of a setting, the way the education goes on, even if mother tongue comes a little later, it can still be brought into the thing. The important thing is to bring the mother tongue into the frame of education and allow the children to become guiding force in that. And the teachers themselves were not used to writing their own languages. So when the children begin to guide, the teachers begin to participate, in one day's time, more than 500 words we were able to make children and teachers write in one day. Throughout. So it was a very interesting experience of how we were proceeding in just one day, in different classes, in different places. Children were able to write the things. So this idea that you involve the communities from below, you involve the literacy skills that they know, you make them write things that they can do. So start literacy practices. Don't always wait for materials to be completed beforehand, tested, standardized. A lot of informal literacy programs, informal education programs can begin on day one. On day one. You see, in our new education policy, there is one suggestion that has been given, that we will pick up in the classes 6 to 8 a project called Languages of India. And every child will, sort of get to have a fun project on understanding the languages of India. My suggestion to all the policymakers is, why do you wait till class 6 and 8? Why don't you begin much earlier with children beginning to know the languages of their own school, of their own ecology, of their own village, of the people around? They should start mapping, talking, and bringing those into the school first. Let them become a part of their own. Own your own diversity. Before you start talking of the entire diversity of the country, they should know their own ecology best. And projects, each school needs proper documentation. My dream is that, each school you will have a full-time camera, as though going to different classes, making children speak, making teachers speak, getting them to interact, involving them, producing sentences over different subject ranges, and produce all that kind of a thing. live documentaries of schools, of children, of teachers actually engaged in the process. And those documentaries we can start producing, and we should have, today with technology around, we can create a whole website, we can create even a channel where we start putting in documentaries of schools, children, performance, and the questions that children are themselves asking, the kind of questions the teachers themselves are asking. We should begin, this is called planning from below, where children are involved, the teachers are involved, actual classroom production is involved, and actual mapping of the setting is going on. Then you are beginning to feel it. Otherwise, what happens is that minorities becomes an academic debate, and we will all have that. The notion of linguistic minorities, as used in theoretical terms, religious minorities are defined at the national level. So there is a majority of so-called Hindus, and there are Muslims and Christians and Parsis and Sikhs and Jains and others. But there are also linguistic minority is left to the state level. So those people who speak a language other than the principal official language of the state are viewed as linguistic minorities. And each state must come up with a list of its own minorities on whom you can want to take action. People in different states have some sort of a list for tribes sometimes. I do not know how many states have prepared their list of linguistic minorities on whom they want to undertake educational programs. Where will you begin? What will happen? What will be the administrative machinery about? So, for planning in a formal way, the formal information, the first step before you do anything else is get recognition of which are the linguistic minorities in that state, which the state recognizes, on which we need to start some remedial action and programs. So, that is one thing. Then you can come down to the other components of giving them a status of being a medium of instruction or a subject of instruction. Then you can take corpus development of preparing textbook materials, subject materials, or other things. And then you can talk of the employment of teachers, especially in knowing those languages and other things. All of that can start happening in planning, the what we call the status planning, the corpus planning, and acquisition planning, and resource planning. But recognition of those languages, where you want to do it, is your first sort of a necessary point for you to commence any effort of planning, and that is something that we need to be aware of and do it. And those of us who have lived in Northeast, we must be prepared for meeting some extra interesting challenges. Let me take, for example, the Ao community. The Ao community is one of the most literate communities in the country. I mean, I think there's probably 95% literacy in a place like in around Mokokchung and in the entire areas. But Ao is an entity of the tribe in which there are at least three different linguistic sort of groups. The Chungli speaking group, which is the so-called standard accidental because Reverend Clark and his wife wrote the first text in it. But there is also Mungsen variety, there is also Chanki variety. These varieties have no place in the Ao curriculum. And if we want to enrich a language, allowing diverse forms of speech, allowing different stories to be told in different varieties, allowing that may be needed in time. But you can't do this as an imposition. This recognition, this call of conscience must come from within, through conferring, through talking to one another, through understanding that language is enriched and diverse forms are brought into it. You see, I'm a speaker of Hindi also, but when I was learning Hindi in school, there was this school variety was very different from a home variety, right? This school variety is much more Sanskritized. My own variety was much less Sanskritized. And along with the Sanskritized variety, we were also taught some amount of, say, Meera Bhajan or Kabir ka Doha and Rahim ka this thing and all that, which were in different varieties. Hindi was not taught as a monolithic mono entity. We were made to feel that Hindi is a large banyan tree in which there are many varieties, there are many literacy traditions, there are many literary forms. So there is a Tulsidas writing in it, there's somebody from Rajasthan writing in it, there's somebody from Bihar writing in it. The feeling that Hindi was a language which belonged to different mother tongues in it. There were diverse forms in it. And Hindi was to grow with those forms together. And you have to understand the poetry, the quality of the poetry, that is such high quality that you need to understand that and enjoy that poetry in those forms and then relate it with the standard. So the idea of diversification of language is critical for it to survive and become. Otherwise, what will happen is, in the name of teaching a language, we will promote one variety over the other and will create the hegemony of the standard over non-standard. We'll privilege one variety over the others. Maybe one is required for the idea of a common language, but at the same time, you need to recognize that gradually the resources that are available, for example, as I said, Mongsen or Chanki, they may go away, and they're very important parts of the entire linguistic heritage of the community. So those of us who engage with language education cannot remain situated in the idea of promoting only so-called standards. We need to take an informed decision that along with the standard, we will try and enrich good creative materials from other varieties about the people and try to involve in it. Similarly, I think the story of Khasi, you see that the variety is called Panar. One of our Melissa's classmates, Curiously Bare, was our student. He just died a few months back with cancer. He wrote his PhD on Panar language, and I was his examiner as well. Now, the whole detailed description of Panar comes out. But Panar has no foothold in school. There is the entire umbrella of Khasi language. Now, I think if Khasi wants to gain more in its growth, it needs to add some literature, some forms from there, bring those also into the idea of enriching languages. So the idea of engaging with minorities involves lots of responsible decisions, of consultation, of enlarging your heart, of changing your vision, and being involved deeply with people's aspirations. You cannot sit down and take decisions from far off. You have to be continuously interacting in dialogue with the communities and be aware of the kind of things that they are up to and do that clearly. So the whole idea of empowering linguistic communities and creating rich materials is extremely important. And remember, the idea of language planning is about questioning the hold of the elite on decision making. There's a whole elite that stands to gain with pushing English as the language. So people are willing now to talk of bilingual education where there'll be English and mother tongue. No other need as though for it. People are seriously questioning three language formula. They don't think that you need even Hindi for anything. And all these kinds of discourses are now on, which we need to seriously question for ourselves. And we need to think, what are the kind of educational programs in different settings? I don't think that you need the same type of educational programs everywhere, but you must develop educational programs that will take your aspirations forward. And the idea of linguistic rights does not end with the right to put mother tongue in school. It is more than that. There is also the right to access languages of power and opportunity. So a child has the right to have access to the official languages of the state or the union. That is part of his linguistic rights discourse. You cannot, but the mother tongue is the initial point. You can drive the agenda of linguistic rights with mother tongue, but do not end there. They need access and growth. That is why you need forms of multilingualism to evolve, forms of this to evolve, so that people feel that they have expanded through school education. Why is Bhavishya Bhavya presenting? Why is Bhavishya presenting?
Bhavisha, kindly switch off. Bhavisha, kindly switch off your audio and stop presentation.
She started presenting. She started presenting.
Bhavisha, can you hear me?
Anyway, I think she doesn't know what she just left the meeting. She just anyway. Now the question is, in the entire exercise on diversity building in multilingualism thing, providing strong foothold, we need to think that the communities are going to be involved in production of materials and all that. Now, let me bring back one small thing to you for your own understanding and of the entire history of the subject. There's a lot of talk of endangered languages today, right? I think all of you are very sensitive to the idea of endangered languages, and this whole UNESCO report has emerged about different endangered languages, and people are saying that we need to safeguard them. I think it's extremely important. But remember, the entire study of linguistics started with the idea of endangered language. In India, the Sanskrit tradition, which was oral and transmitted there, the Vedas and everything, there's a feeling that these Vedas, this oral tradition is going to die. And that is why the communities got energized. That is why the entire thinking of what is called the making the infinite into finite, or developing a science of language happened in the context of endangered languages, in the feeling that the language will be lost, the tradition will be lost. So we, in Indian tradition, we developed what is called 6 branches of knowledge, 4 of which are entirely language. The word shiksha meant only phonetics. Today it means education. But shiksha meant only phonetics at one time. In that, it was one of the wings of the knowledge. Then there was Vyakaran, which was the study of grammar. That is the whole idea of word formation and sentence formation and their inner discipline. And then there was Chandas, the idea of prosody, that, the verses are in a poetry form. You need to capture the meter and describe it. So that the accuracy of the rendition is captured. So there was Chandas was one. And there was Nirukta, what's called etymology or dictionary making or going into the meaning. So the idea of phonology, morphology, syntax, dictionary making, prosody, all these branches of language studies evolved in relation to the discourse that language could be endangered. And that is why, till today, as linguists, we want to do the same thing. We want to capture the sound systems of languages. We want to write dictionaries for those languages. We want to be able to write their meanings and origins. We want to be able to describe the forms of morphology and syntax of the language. The entire agenda was given to aspire ancestral knowledge. So linguistics as a field of knowledge developed in the context of endangered discourse. That languages, they recognize that language is perishable, languages change, languages will over time go away. You need to create a whole documentation procedure there. That is why, even if theoretically there is no speaker of Sanskrit left today, a vast amount of literature has been left behind. So that if tomorrow, if somebody wants to revive that language and make it a language which maybe even today's, some of the speakers, in today's ideology, there's a whole fondness for Sanskrit. It is possible to do some of those things, revive and bring it, like just as Hebrew was revived in Israel and made into a language of their. The materials are there, the traditions are there, there is safeguarding of everything. The whole amount of work has been done. But that quality of work, that kind of a work has hardly been done in many of the other languages. Some languages like Tamil or Kannada or Telugu and some amount of classical language work has been done and prepared, but we have very little idea about what happens to the past otherwise. So the entire agenda of language studies in this country is driven by many, many aspirations. On the one hand, we want to safeguard our entire linguistic diversity, in which even the smallest language finds a place in the curriculum. At the same time, we want to strengthen multilingualism. We want to provide people with an opportunity to grow and become multilingual in other languages of power and opportunity. They need to expand. And we need to involve the people, the communities themselves in decision making, in designing educational programs, in designing materials, in being involved from below with a sense of equality, dignity, and freedom, that they are themselves the decision makers. They are involved in doing things for their own community. Let's not develop a sense of arrogance that we are doing things for the communities. Not it. We are working with the communities as equal partners, as brothers, we have to lend ourselves wholeheartedly to that idea and do it. Only then we will be able to take things forward. I will now wind up with a small 2 minutes acronym, which I think as teachers you may want to keep it. My acronym is for diversity. If Let's diversity be the center of our thinking in this country. When you talk about diversity, D stands for demography. You should have a full idea about the demography of the communities that you're working with. I is for institutional arrangements. You should have an idea about the institutions which are supporting that language. Are they supported only at family level? Is there mass media program in it? Is there any schooling in it? You should have some idea about the institutions involved. V stands for varieties and variation. You should have a good idea about the variation that obtains in that community. As I told you, in the tribal communities, you'll come across more geographical variation and less of socially differentiated variation. Now, you can take a language like Tangkul, for example. The adjacent villages speak such different varieties. My God. Tangkul is not a language, it is a set of languages, you feel. There's a whole amount of varieties there. So very different. So anybody who dares to work on Tangkul will have to do a deep documentation of the variation that happens there. DIV have come. E stands for the ecology and ethos there. You need to understand what is the kind of ethos that is prevalent. Which are the people who are involved in that setting? Which are the communities that are prevalent? And R stands for relationship. What is the nature of relationship between different communities? See, what is the relationship between Khasis and non-Khasis in Meghalaya? What is the relationship between Mizos and non-Mizos in this thing? What is the relationship between Meiteis and non-Meiteis? What is the relationship between cookies and non-cookies there? What is the relationship between that kind of entire in that each area where you pick up? You should have an idea about the relationships that obtain. And S, the socialization processes that are involved. What are the ways in which the languages are, what socialization happens in the, so is socialization happening only in a language, two languages, in cultural institutions? The entire process of socialization is a huge area of work. You should do that. And then the next I, the first one was an institution, stands for inequities, inequality. You should be aware of inequality in each setting so that you try to create a harmonious equalitarian or egalitarian society. You need to make come up with some things. You should understand what the nature of equality or inequality that obtains. And T stands for tension. In every setting, in every multilingual setup, there will be some sort of a tension between different groups. So you should understand what are the nature of issues that will be sensitive to. For example, if you want to pick up the issue of Chakmas in Arunachal Pradesh, lots of political issues, lot of emotions will be stirred. They'll be seen as outsiders from some. They will not be given land rights and others. All kinds of questions will be picked up when you pick up the issue of planning for the Chakmas there. Or if you want to pick up the languages of the tea garden people in Assam, all kinds of questions will come about their languages there. And other groups that will be involved, they'll question you. There will be lots of tensions there. You need to recognize that. And the last Y stands for yield. YIELD. That is the outcome. In every setting, in all programs, there are some outcomes are already happening. There is in each setting that based on the existing programs, existing educational process, there is always an outcome of it. And if you look at what has happened today, what obtains is the outcome of the kind of things that have gone on, the kind of demographic makeup of the people, the institutions that are in operation, the kind of variations that were there, the kind of things that you did with those, the decisions that you took, everything is an outcome of something else. So there is something. So you need to think as a language planner. So when we say that to plan language is to plan society, you have to have a feel of the entire demographic makeup. You have to feel for being with the minorities. You have to understand the different settings properly. And yet you must feel in the Northeast that there is a certain amount of privileges that the people here are in power. The tribes are in a position to question, dialogue, and talk and take informed decisions. And we need to start thorough documentation processes of schools and teachers and materials and share with each other and involve the people in a dialogue and decision making from below. Otherwise, all this will remain just kind of an ambitious program. So it's very important that each institution takes concrete, actual down below programs with the communities and then starts sharing the outcomes of it so that we all start learning and contributing. My last and final statement of the day is an ecology that values diversity guarantees its unity. An ecology that values diversity guarantees its unity because therein you create a feeling of a collective well-being, regardless of your size, regardless of we think that you are equal. You know you're equal. We are going to willing to listen to you, heed you, be with you, and work you out your things. If you don't have people who are linguists within your community, we shall help you to assist that. So the entire team of linguists, educationists, native speakers, we all need to pool our resources, and we will do what is called collective language planning from below to change the linguistic order that obtains in a direction which will be more harmonious, where people will enriched more multilingually with strong roots in mother tongue. Thank you. I think that's all I need to say for this morning.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging speech, especially your involvement, attachment, love for the Northeast and the tribal community. So, without wasting much time, now we have another lead speaker of the day, Professor R Meghanathan from NCERT, New Delhi. But before that, I would like to introduce Professor Mcgannathan. Ramanujan Mcgannathan, presently Professor of English Language Education in the Department of Education in Language, NCERT, New Delhi, is interested in language and learning, teacher, professional development, English language education, curriculum and materials development. He was one of the members of the curriculum group of NCERT, which coordinated the nationwide exercise of developing the National Curriculum Framework 2005, and also an author coordinator of the textbook in English for class 10 and one of the authors of the textbook in English for class 6, developed as a follow-up to NCF 2005. He was the team leader for the curriculum reform exercise in the state of Rajasthan for language education at the school level and headed the textbook development exercise for classes 6 to 8. He has been involved in the textbooks and teacher training materials development in the states of Haryana, Jharkhand, Tamil Nadu, and many other states. He was a Hornby Scholar during the year 2009-10 and did his MA on teaching of English to speakers of other languages at the Lancaster University, United Kingdom. He has published a number of papers in English language teaching, language policy, language curriculum, and developed audio-video programs for learning teaching of English. The research studies conducted include language education, multilingualism, language policy and school management, language curriculum implementation. His current research is on understanding English language classroom, English medium, and language use in defining the modern individual and nationality. His recent book, Language Across the Curriculum, is published by Pearson in 2019. He has produced hundreds of English language videos for teachers, learners, and researchers for NCERT. He is members of many committees and boards in central and state government agencies of school and teacher education. He has also been consulted by many countries from Africa, Europe, and South America on language policy in education. So now I request Professor R Meghanathan, sir, to kindly give your speech. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Balaida, for that exhaustive introduction, which was not required. And let me, at the outset, thank Professor Rajesh Sachdeva for having brought out almost everything of the issues of teaching learning in minority language in any Indian or, in fact, in any Asian situations. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm privileged to be chaired by you in this session. And Professor Rajesh Sachdeva and Professor Balaida Dakar, the moderator, and the coordinator of the seminar, webinar, Dr. Melisha and Sarishbala Devi, and of course, people, reporters who are reporting this event, Dr. Nimai and Dr. Vajwari, and Principal Professor Pattakor, and my colleagues from Northeast Regional Institute of Education, as well as from other institutes, and the participants of the webinar. So let me address only the issues of language classroom in the context of minority language, and the language teacher and resources, which part of which, or most of which, Professor Rajesh Deva has addressed, bringing in the issues and concerns. So let me take up, I would like to see the minority language teaching learning situation in India from three different contexts within the minority language situations. Let me show it some from my some of the presentation slides, so that it would be fine. I think. Can you see the slide? Can you see the slide there?
Yes,
No.
It's appearing. So I'm seeing the Indian language minority language teaching situations in three different contexts. The first is the situation one, as it appears. Let me put it again. Some problem in it. Give me a minute. Just give me. So I'm looking at the three situations, as I said. The first is the from the context of the minority, mean the languages of Northeast. That should be one, and in which as Professor Rajesh Sachdeva has really brought up and pointed out, that these languages are in power. They have power. They are in a way majority languages too. However, but they are not finding their due place in school education. They are not brought to school in a way, and even if they are there, they have their own problems. This is one. So that's what the first one. That is, I think now the slide is seen. Yeah, Melissa. Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Fine. Sorry. Okay. So this is the situation one of minority language teaching situation. So in which almost all, most of the languages are in school, but however they have their own issues. So the language classroom, curriculum, and materials and language teachers have to deal with each of these situations differently, different treatment. So this is Northeast. The second one is many minority languages with one or two majority state languages like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha. You may find Bengali and Hindi in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarhi and Hindi in Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Hindi as kind of majority languages, or many, even Bengali. This is second situation. Then the third situation is maybe Hindi heartland and particularly Tamil Nadu, where at the borders or in the state, the languages are minority languages, not many in number, but with one state majority language. Why I have brought these three teaching learning situations, and each of these need to really plan classroom teaching curriculum separately. So before I come back to this, let me take up whether the current practice of multilingual education as advocated by National Curriculum Framework 2005 and institutions like NCERT and SCRT, does that work as a policy as well as philosophy? Mother tongue based multilingualism in most cases result in parallel monolingualism, as Heller points out. Suppose the state of Tamil Nadu may be teaching, or Jharkhand may be teaching 4 or 5 languages, but they have no connections between these languages, even though the children in the classroom know more than one language, more than 2 languages, besides English being taught as a language from class 1. So this is this MLE in the present context, including the one proposed by Professor Ajit Mohanty, who himself regrets on some occasions that they are bringing the languages of children, many languages, minority languages of children, but they are taught separately, not actually the multilingual kind of thing where all the languages work together. Then, so teaching learning languages in isolation within the MLE framework has also landed us in different kind of situations. Then the very old and mostly described as dissatisfied implementation 3-language formula does not address 2 issues relating to any language, and particularly minority language education. How can the languages, all languages of the learners to be brought into curriculum? It only says mother tongue based multilingualism. Every child begins his schooling with the mother tongue and move on to add at least 2 more languages. Does that happen? We know it's not happening. Then 3-language formula also envisaged, assumed that medium of instruction would be in the mother tongue, assuming that the mother tongue would fall under either home language or regional language. In many of the minority contexts, medium of instruction is not the language of children. So, in one way, the current MLE education as well as the national language policy strategy 3-language formula do not actually support in one way the minority languages. Then what could be done? What could be done? So from our experience, research studies working with the states and our own surveys, we really understand that bringing in all the languages of children is a problem for the states and even those communities whose languages are minority languages. That's what Professor Rajesh Sachdeva has brought out very well. So in that case, foundational stages of schooling will need to look at languages of learners at the primary level, at the foundational years, as one, the linguistic repertoire of learners bring to school. Meaning, we mean that the child may have the minority language, say Avo, Angami, or in Tamil Nadu, Malayalam, at the border, Malayalam, Kannada, or the Todas. They may have their own language along with the state language in Tamil Nadu situation, and the language of the majority language, and English in places like Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. So the children come with more than 2 or 3 languages. Can we treat them as one? That's what in the recent working paper which we have submitted few days ago to NCERT at the instance of ministry. We call it multilingual tongues as mother tongue of the learner in school, at least in the foundational stage. NEP in the new structure calls for recommends 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That means first 5 years of schooling, that is 3 years of preschool and 2 classes 1 and 2 will be one structure. Now we have got a great opportunity to exploit this, to establish, to set up a kind of to launch a language education at the earliest stage, with the foundation of multilingual tongue or multilingualism of the mother tongue of learners. In the how it's going to, this is actually blurring the boundaries of language as entities, discrete entities, when children come to school. Of course, the mother tongue is there with them, or the home language is also there, or the language of the neighborhood. Many such labels we have given. But languages are experienced as a network of totality in communicative acts. That's what Professor Mcgannathan points out. So when children speak, they speak not only in one language. They put together many languages to speak. They may use sometime Avo, Angami, English, and even Hindi. In the bordering places of South Indian states, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu are in a way spoken by most of the learners. So in this context, going back to this one, all the three linguistic situations, teaching learning situations of minority languages, Northeast, that Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha, and the Hindi heartland as well as Southern India, this multilingual tongue as mother tongue at the earlier stage should really work. Then what does it do? It also helps languages are learnt and used together in society and the classroom when they are using it in the society and the classroom. Let me take the example of the Krishnagiri district or the district of Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. We'll find that each and everyone will know, most of them will know Malayalam and Tamil, and here in Krishnagiri district, Kannada and Tamil. So that's why then the state of Tamil Nadu develops textbooks in 7 languages: Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Hindi also, then Persian and Urdu, because there are some Persian minority schools there. So in that case, when languages in the society are used together, and with a lot of code switching to English language, so this language socialization which happens outside the classroom should actually support language learning in the classroom. How far we do that in our curriculum planning, including NCERT's curriculum planning, needs to be really introspected and questioned. So children learn, again, let me take up Mohanty and Skatnap Kangas. So children learn to communicate socially appropriate ways in multilingual environment, move through different stages of multilingual socialization. Maybe I may be using 2 languages, and I may be using more Tamil and less Malayalam if I'm a Tamil speaker. I may be using more Malayalam and less Tamil if I'm a Malayalam mother tongue speaker. Then with the English as well as possible to some Hindi. Tamil Nadu does not have Hindi. So in that case, our curriculum planning and classroom teaching needs to actually change, taking this language socialization which happens outside as well as in the school, not particularly only in the, it's not happening only in the language classroom. So, but language curriculum and schooling separate them. How to break this barrier? Look at it. Let me move on to take up the issue of pedagogy of for any language teaching, particularly in minority language context. So, how can all the languages of learners in the classroom be used in the classroom for to teaching learning of languages and content subjects? Now, we have a medium of instruction. We have a particular language taught, dealt with separately, as Professor Agnihotri said, including NCERT's curriculum assumes that one language, one teacher, a set of children. That's not true. We know that. How many languages can be used concurrently is another question which comes to our mind. So there's no barrier. Why are we confining to ourselves to the, okay, this is Hindi language classroom, this is Tamil language classroom, I wouldn't be using it any other language, when children know many more languages. And that's what we found the way of translanguaging. Is that possible in the classroom? Why not? So let's take some time to understand translanguage pedagogy. Every one of us know it's a pedagogical strategy using whole linguistic repertoire of learners, a spontaneous multilingual practice. As Gunzer and got to point out, describe it. So a classroom may have 3-4 more languages, and can that be used equally or conveniently to teach language as well as content subjects? So this is a long way to go, because this language purist as well as even pedagogues to some extent, and of course the political correctness is in a way against it. You teach Tamil, or you teach Angami, Nagami, you teach Mizo, or Hindi, Sanskrit, only in a particular language classroom. So some of the experiences of ours as well as elsewhere says collaborative activities such as interactive read alouds in two or more languages. We have conducted some of the experiments in which we found that read aloud in 2-3 languages, and in a different manner the same text is in 2-3 languages, or children read in one language, Hindi, and say it in the languages they know, and using a picture book with words in more than one language. So the words in the picture are more than one in one language. This makes children really to understand the language, even the languages which they may not know, but their peers know. Then, and my own experiment of project work across languages and content, when I was in school, and later, and I also brought it into my book Language Across the Curriculum. Supposing a project work on creating a brochure of your place, whatever the place. Not it is not necessarily a historically known place or true tourist spot. Create the brochure in the languages children know, more than 2-3 languages, and also in collaboration with the history teacher, so the children will understand how to look for the various ways and means of finding facts and figures historically, archaeologically, and politically. Then children go and collect information, talk to elders, bring ideas in all the languages possible, whatever the languages they know available to people there. Then the content which comes from history, political science, whatever this one area, society, then they put together and develop a brochure. These kind of activities, collaborative project work, will be a part of translanguaging and pedagogy. Ultimately, we are expecting learners to use the languages available to them in their interaction, use, and also in writing wherever possible. So what happens with that? Let's go to comments what he says. So when children use more than one language and many languages, there are some transfers across the languages happening. One is conceptual element and understanding of the concepts. That means the content is being understood in all the languages. So if I have understood very well in my Tamil, I can do it in English and Hindi, and any of the languages I know. Then metacognitive and meta-linguistic strategies. I also move up and move beyond and start thinking about it. Oh, this is done and this is not done. So let me take up. The same way, notice language, how I will be using, correcting myself, and those kind of meta-linguistic strategies. And pragmatic aspects of language use, how will I speak for language for pragmatic day-to-day purposes, here and now language. Then, and when I also, it also gets transferred. If I know in one language, some specific strategies were used to denote a particular way of saying. That is, suppose some historical names, some historical connotations, context, some proverbs, then how that linguistic element gets transferred to other language. And at last, we know that phonological awareness, or when I speak a particular language, this is and this gets transferred. So all these get easily transferred to the other language which you are learning, which you are using. In that case, how can I make the translanguaging as an effective pedagogy is the work to be done by NCERT, SCERT, and every teacher in the classroom, particularly in the context of minority language teaching situations. So then look at it. So from the translanguaging pedagogy, that means multi-languaging pedagogy, to what kind of teacher we are expecting to be a translanguaging teacher when it comes to teaching minority languages. So we are expecting a teacher who has basic linguistic pedagogical training, also language teaching methods and techniques from the context of language learning and acquisition, that is first language learning as well as second language pedagogy. Then of course the teacher should have the knowledge of curriculum development and teaching materials development. So there are many things. I'm not saying that UNESCO 2000, the vitality of language education, 2003. Important is, let my translanguaging teacher, a minority language teacher, be aware of linguistic and pedagogical aspects of language teaching and curriculum, how a curriculum, and Professor Rajesh very well said that how a curriculum have to be holistically planned, and so that the materials development happens rooted in the linguistic patois of learners, community knowledge, so on and so forth. So I am adding to that, the teacher also should develop and should possess critical language awareness, which includes socio-economic, socio-cultural awareness of about the learners and the community in which they are teaching. So, what is critical language awareness? We know that basic linguistic pedagogical training is a requirement for any teacher, particularly this teacher, from the context of understanding minority languages community. Now, what is critical language awareness? Which again, let me go back to Professor Agnihotri ji and Professor Rajesh Saxena, both brought out that let us understand this language, politics, and political context of the way language education operates. I will come to that a bit later about how various language agencies also operating in language education as well as in general. So I am a language teacher teaching in a minority tribal language context. So let me understand the power equations in the languages and the national language policy or strategy known as three language formula, and and its implication for minority languages, and the education policy 2020, for that matter 1986 policy and 1992 program of action. All of them, how do they look at language education? This is an essential awareness a language teacher possesses in order to promote the languages of children in the classroom. And we know very well language is not simply a tool for communication. Language is a reflection of culture. It's the cultural fund of the learners, the community. Also, it is also the cultural capital, we call it. So in this context, how a teacher can connect the language teaching learning situation, teaching learning in the classroom with the knowledge available to them, and also how they can connect the life of children outside the classroom with the life inside the classroom. So this involves the materials, the themes which which children bring, how they can be valorized, used in the classroom. So then let me take to the other aspect of the teaching learning situations, which could be diversity effectively achieved, realized through linguistic mapping. So why we need to do linguistic mapping? We know that this is very important in very important in all the three situations which I said. Now, whether it is northeast, the other states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, where minor languages are maybe less, and the languages of the other states in the other states, meaning Tamil Nadu has Malayalam, Kannada, Telugu, and Andhra Pradesh has languages of to some extent Bengali, Hindi, and Tamil. So vice versa. So, in Karnataka. In these things, we need to find out the linguistic mapping of children in the school context. I'm not saying that census is doing collecting data on many counts, and it doesn't take any language speaker less than 10,000 as a language at all. It's not a mother tongue. That's what even Sanskrit is not found in the census as a mother tongue, as a language. It does not have 10,000 speakers who has returned as mother tongue. So what's happening when we do linguistic mapping? In states where many minority languages are available, we need to really do that. And in that case, all the bordering states of even one majority state language assumed to be like Tamil, or in Uttar Pradesh, Hindi and Urdu, or in Maharashtra, Marathi, and some other languages. So state-wise, region-wise, state, region, district borders, we need to really school-wise mapping of languages. How many children know how many languages? It is also important to do dysglasia of mapping if needed. That means variety of languages within a language. So one is at the district borders, region borders means I mean language region, Avo and Angami, many other language, Meithei and other Manipuri language. And Manipuri is of course probably prevalent all over the state if it is assumed. And also we need to map domains of language use. Which language is used for what purpose, with whom? We know that as linguists or language pedagogues, we know some languages are used for cultural purposes. Some languages are used for speaking to only elders. Some languages are used for the sabjiwala in the market. So this would actually help how we can actually transact in the classroom. Then this content and knowledge creation in this language, linguistic mapping will lead to content and knowledge creation in the languages, ultimately leading to planning the languages curriculum, syllabus and materials, which Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, the chairperson, just noted it, pointed out. So if we go for a translanguaging pedagogy and a teacher and then linguistic mapping, then we will really land up in a good curriculum for multilingual education with bringing in all the languages into school. So then the next question is the resources. In the resources, of course, authenticity is the first and foremost question. And then we need to really develop multilingual texts, including graded readers. Yesterday, I was listening to Stephen Creation on comprehension hypothesis. After 45 years of he propounded the theory of input hypothesis. It was meaning if we are able to give at the early stage as much as reading to children, means enabling children learn to read, notice language, then if they are able to read text in any language or in any script, whatever the script, it can be in Devanagari script or Roman script, but the language is the languages of children, then we need to really create multilingual text and that are graded in one way in the initial stage, first 3 years of schooling. We have done in NCERT, Professor Krishna Kumar's idea of creating the Barka series for early graded reading for early readers in Hindi as first language or any language. Then this material should be building familiarity with the languages as well as the script, not necessarily the established standard script. So the materials will actually build familiarity, enable children to notice language, the not notice language is not one language, many languages, and their script, and if their script is written in some other language. Then will that stop? No, we need to really create such engaging task connecting the life of the learner through this multiple multilingual texts the readers children actually have in the classroom. What kind of activities and exercises? We call it generally exercises and activities in the good old term. Now we call it engaging tasks. How many times a learner is able to visit the text, revisit the text, ponder over, reflect, process language in the brain in order to come out with an outcome of speaking, listening, reading, writing, what else and what not, even just retelling the text. So this authenticity of text, then building familiarity with the language, engaging task, leading to this leads to actual languages, learning of many languages concurrently, then achieving in a way the translanguaging as pedagogy. Then we have seen that we have seen that content creation in language planning will actually happen in the process of resources. We also have to do language documentation in school, through school, for school education. I'm not saying that documentation of language just to saving them from endangerment. That is the major goal. Documentation of language in order to document because they may extinct soon. No, that's one maybe. But when we do the linguistic mapping, we take the next level to that, documenting the language in every sense, the sounds, the words, the knowledge, everything through school education, through the teacher. And ultimately, we need to use technology for all these purposes, creating not only using resources, creating resources. I may not be able to document everything in writing. Let me record it in audio form. Later convert that. Now, there are many ways nowadays. Audios are converted into text. So how far I can use the technology which is available to us. Then, of course, multilingual dictionaries, including sign language dictionary. Yesterday we received a notice from ministry. Next year we need to take up sign language dictionary for school children. Probably Dr. Melissa is listening to this. We have said that yes, NCERT will take up, and we need to work with this sign language institute, and of course people like Dr. Melissa, who is a sign language person. So multilingual dictionaries in not only let me tell you, multilingual dictionary, what we in NCERT do is we have done in geography and economics. It is multilingual dictionary, Hindi, English, Hindi, Urdu, and if needed, Sanskrit. This is what, and if we will confine to what 3-4 languages available, that too in Delhi where we work, and also some of the languages and some of the recognized 22 languages of the constitution. So how can we move out and make the multilingual dictionaries in the context of minority tribal languages is one of the ways, ways and means to enrich, support learners, teachers in the multilingual classroom. Then, of course, learner-created materials will be much more authentic with the help of community. I think some of the exercises in which Dr. Melissa Velang did for the stories and storytelling in Shillong and the outskirts and the villages there would be a really great work. Those kind of learner-created stories, materials, we need to find out. So now, some of the general questions let me take up, aspects let me take up. Medium of instruction in the context of minority language teaching learning. We know very well the mother tongue medium battle is almost lost, not only in minority languages context. We are also losing it in major state language context. We know very well it's not a secret anymore. The state of Andhra Pradesh has overnight wanted to convert into English medium all its schools. I'm using the word conversion, and it is the someone has gone to file a suit against the state. It is in Supreme Court. The court and the ministry are consulting us what kind of thing. We have been giving that at least the initial years of schooling should be in the mother tongue, not necessarily in the state majority language. And now we have come to the situation, the movement of a medium of instruction is from state majority language to English medium. Now the making a case for mother tongue, minority mother tongue as medium is almost means in a closed matter in a way. Regretfully, I'm saying, and but the English language has moved from a foreign language to third language to second language to first language. If you really look at CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education syllabus and curriculum, English is the first language. Though it's not said, and recently the Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan schools in Tamil Nadu refused to teach Tamil as a language even, and there's a political means kind of quarrel over there. They say the Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan says that at least we need 20 children to teach a language in a school. That's the general rule, except for minority languages. So imagine a situation, a state like Tamil Nadu, where Tamil is not offered in a centrally administered school system, is really a serious matter. So how are we going to that not even medium of instruction, that's a language. But whereas English language as now it's a medium of all the centrally administered school systems, and states like Andhra Pradesh and Jammu Kashmir are converting to complete English medium. Jammu Kashmir has done it 10 years ago without ensuring any facilities. In this context, how minority languages are making a case to be a language, at least a language in school, is to be seen. So, how language planning? I'll come to the 2020 policy. How it's addressing National Education Policy 2020 is addressing the issue of languages. First of all, it has titled the section on languages multilingualism and the power of language, giving lots of hope and scope for bringing in the languages. But it also gives extreme flexibility in the implementation of three-language formula, within which that mother tongue medium up to class 5, it's making a case. This will go against the philosophy of mother tongue based multilingualism, because now RTE, which is existing still, makes a case for as far as practicable up to class 8. And it also calls for promotion of Indian languages, and we need to really look into deep to understand is it only 22 recognized languages and all the languages mother tongues. So let me reproduce whatever the NEP 2020 says. Three-language formula will continue to be implemented while keeping in mind constitutional provision, aspiration of people, region, union, and it also says no language will be imposed on any state. This is coming. This is in response to the state of Tamil Nadu's opposition to Hindi, and it says that 3 languages will be learned by children will be the choice of the states, regions, and of course the students themselves, as long as at least 2 languages of the 3 languages, or at least 2 of the 3 languages are native to India. Now it is the NEP 2020 is taking very well for granted. English language is there from class 1. The other 2 languages, it's actually in a way freeing the formula from studying Hindi as a common language. So how can we use it, we adopt it in the context of minority language situations? That is the great. It also it's not a constraint. It's scope and also flexibility in which we'll make it one of the two languages besides English is the our languages, and even putting into three languages from class 6, because the language formula comes into effect from class 6. How will we plan a language education, classroom teaching with all the languages of children is actually the million dollar question we need to really answer, including NCERT, SCERT, all those who are here. So the other one which is working now is the agency in language education. I forgot to put that word, education. The first and foremost agency is, okay, mother tongue should be the medium of instruction, mother tongue should be taught, mother tongue should be brought to school, is one agency. What is agency? And for those for those the word is new, the capacity of the individual to make a difference to a pre-existing state of affairs or the course of action. For example, the state of Tamil Nadu took up the Tamil love for Tamil nationalism as it is an agency. So look at the agency now. Mother tongue agency is there. State language agency. I'm using the state language, majority language agency. For example, recently in the states of Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh brought out a compulsory study of the state language bill. That is, Malayalam has to be studied by any child who studies in Kerala, whether it is Kendriya Vidyalaya, Navodaya Vidyalaya, any child. So that is also is working. Tamil Nadu brought out the law 1969. And the second, third agency is English as an inevitable language. If you don't study English, we are done away with. And ultimately promoting English as a medium of language. This is another agency working. And of course, the fourth agency is Indigenous, Tribal, Minority Languages Agency, which we belong to, we are talking about. These four agencies are intersecting language policy, education policy, also the education policy, also the curriculum planning and classroom teaching. So if all these work, and how will a language teacher will actually take up the classroom, deal with the classroom, and how schools can plan for a true language education which is truly multilingual. So let me stop with a few questions to all of us to reflect. How can we bring in all the languages of learners to school and use them for teaching learning? How can the existing language and education policies, including three language formula, state language policy, of monolingual orientations, realize this? We want to bring all the languages to school and all languages to be used, but how this the policies which actually are monolingual oriented, they look at languages separately, can realize this. And how can we transform the foundational years of schooling into truly multilingual, that all the languages of learners are used for teaching learning of languages? That is that leads to, is translanguaging as a pedagogy possible? And it's a question to we ourselves in CRT. And ultimately, do we need a state language policy which ultimately culminate into national language policy, at least for education? This is that. Let me submit all this. Thank you very much for having listened to me patiently. Thank you, the chairperson, Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, and the moderator, Valaida and Melissa Valang. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting and elaborating on the three situations in the Northeast, in the context of Northeast, then in the dominant language versus tribal language, and one majority state language with few minority language. So these are really few issues in teaching learning in minority language, especially in school education in general and classroom in particular. Professor Mcgannathan has also emphasized in his speech very important points like language socialization, pedagogy in the context of minority languages, trans languaging as a pedagogy, among others. Sir has concluded his speech with few questions which need to be answered. So thank you so much, sir, for your very encouraging speech. Now we will go ahead with the paper presentation. Before I hand over to the chairperson, Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, we have a total number of 7 paper presenters, and I request all the paper presenters to please stick with the time. You have 10 minutes each to present your paper, including question and answers. So kindly stick to the time so that we will wind up in time. So now I hand over the session to Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, the chairperson of the session. Please, sir, carry on.
Thank you so much. So we said how many? 7 or 8? How many presentations are there now in this session?
We have seven presenters, sir.
Okay, so and we can go on till what time are we supposed to be going?
We will wind up by 1 o'clock.
So we have 1 hour, 3 minutes. So let's say at 3 minutes I'll take for myself. So we have 1 hour for 7 presentations.
Okay,
Roughly, we have 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes for each person. If you want 1 or 2 minutes of discussion, and maybe we can have discussion towards the end. Otherwise, what happens is that as it is, many of the speakers are not getting enough time because of so many people who are participating. So let's go ahead with the presentations and we'll take the questions in the end. So let's say about 7 to 8 minutes of presentation. And I don't want to tell anybody, please be vigilant of your own time. Time is a collective resource. Let us distribute it for each other. And let us maintain that I will finish. Take a pledge in your mind when you speak. I am going to stop in 7 or 8 minutes. Whatever you have to say, come down to your salient things very quickly. Thank you so much. Start. The first speaker, there was somebody, I don't have the list of people who are speaking. One of you will tell us who's speaking next.
Good morning, sir. This is Debani Deb. I guess I'm the first one to be speaking on this according to the schedule.
Excuse me, as per the schedule, Unmana Bordoloi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Unmana Bordoloi?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Please start your presentation. The paper is on girl
Okay, ma'am.
child literacy rate and ignorance of minority language in primary schools of tea garden areas with special reference to Kachari, Guyon Tea Estate, Rangapara, Assam. Please start your presentation.
Ma'am, is my slides are visible?
No.
Ma'am?
No, it's not visible.
Okay,
Try again.
Okay, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am.
Yeah. If you are not ready, if Dibani Deb is ready, then we can start. If you are ready, Dibani Deb.
Ma'am, is my slides are visible?
Okay, yes. Now it's visible. You carry on.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Unmona Borlo, a PhD research scholar from Cotton University, Guwahati. The seminar topic I'll be presenting today is Girl Child Literacy Rate and Ignorance of Minority Language in Primary Schools of Tea Garden Areas with special reference to Kasargaon Tea Estate, Rangapara, Assam. The presentation outlines as follows. Introduction. Education is about knowledge gaining practice that helps to get zenith of civilization. It is the milestone of a nation's development. Education provides as knowledge and skills to the population and shaping the personality of the youth. And doing so, Indian government introduced various educational schemes like midday meal scheme, district primary education program, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, national program for education of girls at elementary level for upliftment of girl child literacy rate. But despite of so many government educational schemes, most of the parents of the tea garden community opposed to send their children, especially the girl child to schools. Furthermore, Satri is the native language of that community, and the use of Assamese language as the medium of instruction in the tea garden schools create a major obstacle to attainment of education. And as the title of this paper reveals, this study is mainly focused on ignorance of girl child education as well as minority language issues among the tea garden community of Kasarigao Tea Estate. Objectives: to understand the cause that lies behind their ignorance of girl child education, to study the prevailing gender discrimination in educating their girl child, to study the language problem faced by a teacher and student, to suggest some measures on language problem as well as gender discrimination in education. And here is the location map. The area of this study is Kasarigao Tea Estate in Rangapara of Sunitpur district, Assam, located in the northern bank of river Brahmaputra. The garden has covered 716.32 hectares area, under which 450.92 hectares area is plantation zone, with a total population of 3,709 as of 2019. The garden has 4 lower primary schools. Methodology: the information of the present study based on primary and secondary data. 80 households randomly were taken from survey where interview schedule that remains both open-ended and closed-ended questions were used to collect qualitative and quantitative data. To get primary data, face-to-face interview, observation method, structured questionnaire, case study method, etc. were used. Newspapers, journals, books, official data from Administrative Office of Kasarigao Tea Estate has taken as a source of secondary data. Girl child literacy rate. From the survey, it has been seen that most of the household activities has done by the girl child in the absence of their mothers. As the survey revealed, parents' illiterate rate is high due to lack of appropriate social domain. In most of the case, they preferred engage their child in earning outside of the garden instead of sending to schools. The survey table clearly reveals about the low percentage of girl child literacy rate compared to boys in lower primary level. Some same way, in the case of school dropout rates, female percentage is high. Interview with all the head teachers revealed that pertain of good facilities affect on students' attendance, but most of the female students are poorly attending schools. And these are the survey tables. Table 1 is about educational level of the respondent, children of age below 14, and table number 2 is about school details of study area. Parents' role in children's education. As we all know that mother's education has played a significant role to influence on children's education. In the present study area, women constitute almost 70% of the total tea workers. The tea industries are mainly female workers based industry. And therefore, instead of educating their daughters, parents are eager to employ them in the garden. After they arriving in the age of 18, as a result, they are lagging behind in education and become an unskilled labor in the garden. Moreover, practice of early age marriage to girl child is the common scenario. High literacy rate and poor living condition of parents unable to appreciate towards the female education, and to some extent use of regional language in the education curriculum deprive them of literacy value. Next, garden school and a medium of instruction. In the 4 respective lower primary schools, teachers use Assamese language as a medium of instruction. On the other hand, the peoples and belonging to tea garden community commonly use Sadri language to communicate. And in these 4 lower primary schools, uh, most of the teachers are appointed through teachers eligibility test and are outsiders, and are most of the outsiders from the garden community, except few of them. Poor knowledge of Sadri language forced them to avoid classroom discussion or group discussion method, which create a gap between teacher and learners discussions. To prevent lower percentage of girl child in the sample area, awareness campaign should be helped to improve the awareness towards the value and effectiveness of girl child education, as well as use of bilingual or multilingual medium of instruction help to understand the academic content material, to understand one's own cultural value. To doing so, an absolute native language based teachers training should be implied. Also, creates preschools and
You
played a
have only
vital
one or
role
two
in
minutes
the
left.
regional.
You have only 1 or 2 minutes
Okay,
left.
sir. Development through singing. Okay, ma'am. Sir, development through the singing, storytelling, poem recitation, etc. under the instruction of literate youth of the same community. Next conclusion. The study revealed that medium of instruction is major obstacle to teachers and learner both. This is one of the major reasons for high school dropout rate. Furthermore, the above study analyzing the factors lies behind the high rate of girl child illiteracy rate. The National Education Policy 2020 mandated mother tongue as the medium of instruction in the schools up to class 5, and accordingly the state government has mandated the same rule. In the end, it can be said that use of interdependence theory could be helped the pupils possesses extremely instrumental in the development of corresponding abilities in the second language throughout their knowledge and skills of first language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to tell you that
Yes, sir.
Sadri is not listed as a separate language. Sadri is listed, I think, as one of the mother tongues under Hindi, as far as I recollect in the census. So if they had so-called mother tongue education,
Yes,
would have
sir.
become Hindi education, and Hindi would have been as much or as less understood as Assamese for them, because Sadri is removed. Even in Jharkhand, where Sadri is the lingua franca, Sadri is not used in schools, is not taught in schools and all that. So we have a very difficult kind of a problem in dealing with Sadri and Hindi and Assamese and the kind of government categorization of languages in the process. Anyway,
Yes,
let's have the next.
but
Let's
that's
have the,
current.
let's have next speaker.
Yeah,
I'm glad
thank
you
you.
talked to Sadri as a mother tongue, but I want to know there are complications in the entire exercise. Anyway, let's have the next speaker.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
afternoon. Good afternoon. Is my presentation visible?
No, no, it's not visible.
Not yet, not yet. Maybe you're trying. Just try.
Is it visible now?
No, you should be able to see it yourself, I think. No, not visible.
So the paper is on National Education Policy 2020 and the language policy. He is from Kazakh, Ragod and Lakshadweep. So this is the name of the paper.
Share the screen. Is it visible now?
No, no, it's not visible.
Not yet visible.
Not yet.
Just a minute. Present now. Is it visible now?
No, not yet.
Yes,
Just
yes. Now it is coming.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So my presentation is on the topic National Education Policy 2020 and the Language Policy, cases from Kasaragod and Lakshadweep. I'm Devani Deb, a PhD research scholar from the Department of Education of Central University of Kerala. Now, as a background to the study, I would like to say that India, as we know, is a land of linguistic heterogeneity, and the NEP 2020 has presented us with an idea of linguistic identity associated with the minority languages. That is like the inclusion of more mother tongue or home languages as a medium of instruction till class 5 or beyond wherever possible. And it has also talked about keeping the three languages formula intact. And the objective of this study was to diagnose issues and challenges with regions harboring a populace of multilinguals having a different or a dominant regional or official language or languages which is different from their own mother tongue or home languages. The areas under study is Kasaragod, which is known as the Saptabhasha Sangama Bhumi. It is the northernmost district of Kerala, bordering Dakshin Kannada, of which it was a part before the reformation of the state territories. And Kasaragod boasts of a literacy of 90.09% according to the last 2011 census. And there is an existence of 7 distinctive linguistic communities within this district, namely Malayalam, Kannada, Tulu, Konkani, Urdu, Marathi, and Beri. And the other area under study is Lakshadweep, which is the smallest union territory in India, which is 36 islands, and literacy is of 91.85%. The two major languages spoken in the islands are that of Jazeri in the Lakshadweep Islands and Mahal in the Minicoy Islands. So, but an interesting thing is that this Lakshadweep follows the curriculum and pattern of education of Kerala in its schools, and Malayalam and English are the two existing mediums of schooling. Methodology, I did a qualitative case study in this case, and purposive selections were done of 4 cases, 2 each from Kasaragod and 2 from Lakshadweep, and telephonic semi-structured interviews were conducted with a preset of questions that were posed to them, and their views and experiences were compared and contrasted to gain an understanding on how people from these linguistic communities, which are minority languages in and around Kerala, reflected upon their schooling experiences and probable impact of the language policy envisioned in NEP 2020 in the view of including more mother tongues into the existing scenario. Now, the voices of these representatives from the minority linguistic communities in and around Kerala would be influential in diagnosing issues and challenges in the language policy. So I'll quickly go to the findings at first and then go back to a few instances from the cases. In this bottom-up inductive approach, this paper presents 2 major findings through the case studies. The first one is that it is impractical to consider changing mediums of instructions from English to other mother tongues in linguistically heterogeneous spaces in India, for instance, in the case of Kasaragod. Secondly, in keeping with the spirit of NEP 2020, there needs to be further research for strategic measures on the part of state governments, in this case Kerala, to incorporate more mother tongues in its schooling. And these are some cases, instances from the cases I studied, and some quotes from them. So the first case here, her mother tongue is Kannada, and she's done her schooling primarily in an English medium private school. And in her opinion, it is important to know a mother tongue well, but it is equally or perhaps more important to learn English. She stated that Kannada had almost no use for her beyond her schooling. So it is fine, according to her, to have studied that mother tongue till class 8, which she did as a second or third language. So, and she was very vocal, however, about the loss of her ability to converse at home in pure Kannada because of the influence of using a lot of Malayalam outside the home, because of her peer group and so on. The case 2 is a native Tulu speaker from Kasaragod, and he also primarily did his schooling in the official languages of English and Hindi, and he too reiterated the need to learn English and Hindi more in terms of schooling and further professional, you know, practical purposes. And but he also was vocal about the sense of his loss of language at home. Like for instance, he said that his parents were very fluent in conversing in Tulu, whereas his functional usage of Tulu was somewhere interspersed with usages of Malayalam, which was affected primarily because of his outside the home experiences of conversing in Malayalam mostly, which is the state language in Kerala. The case 3 is a native from Minicoy Island whose mother tongue is Mahal, and as we know, the script for them is Tibehi, which is similar to the official language of Maldives, and but again his own education was in Navodaya Vidyalaya, primarily in English medium. So he deemed English and Hindi as being comfortable languages to deal with during his schooling, and it has aided in his exposure to multicultural teachers and peers very early in life, and also helped him in his professional life and higher studies later on. Case 4 is another native of Lakshadweep. His mother tongue is Jaisari, and which, though uses the Malayalam script, has very different essence, he told me, in usages. For example, he said the word jignasa in Malayalam, which is like stands for curiosity, the word equivalent in English, would not be used in the same way by a Jaisari speaker. They would call it asha. So he emphasized upon the use of bilingual or multilingual approach by teachers with those students whose home language may be different from the medium of instruction. Now, this is a thing that is quoted, supportive thing quoted from the NEP 2020. So he said, based on his school experience, multilingual or lingual or bilingual approach should be used in the schools of Lakshadweep for the better understanding of students whose mother tongue is Jaisari, but who are taught primarily in the official language of Malayalam or English. So the discussion, there are many instances which I haven't been able to quote here, but these are backed by reviews, the things that have been responded by the cases studied. So one such instance would be the need for the case of Kannada language in Kerala, Kasaragod primarily. So there was a convention in which a particular important person, Dr. H.S. Pallal, had said that there is a need to nurture Kannada language. If a language becomes extinct, then the whole heritage would be lost. And in the same event, which was honoring some Kannada medium schools in Kasaragod, another person was quoted as saying that there is a need to save Kannada medium schools that are on the verge of closure in Kasaragod. One should not develop inferiority complex about Kannada medium schools. Now, this, if we can correlate with what the cases have been saying from Kasaragod, would give us some insight into the situation of these different home languages or the heterogeneous linguistic communities that exist in Kasaragod. Now, the implications are primarily that these cases from Kasaragod and Lakshadweep raise questions on the practicality of shifting medium of instruction from English to regional languages in heterogeneous linguistic spaces, because all these students who belong to these different types of linguistic communities have found it easier and practical to have an English medium education in these linguistically complex scenarios under the scope of the study. And secondly, it has also been revealed that the minority mother tongues or home languages in the areas studied are affected adversely due to the proliferation of the major regional language. In this case, it is Malayalam. So there has to be a strategic intervention on the part of the state, like Kerala, which is scoring so high on literacy and development in the education sector, to nurture inclusivity for these diverse languages within these regions and to address the requirements of such peripheral voices.
Okay. I think you've run out of time.
Thank you, sir. That's it. I wanted to say.
But I think you've raised a rather wicked issue, a difficult issue to resolve. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have the next person in.
Yeah, the next presenter is Rinyaki Khankra.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the paper is on bilingual education for Thangpur minorities. Please start your presentation.
Okay. So the title of my presentation is Bilingual Education for Tangkhul Minorities. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, carry on.
Okay, the title of my presentation is Bilingual Education for Tangkhul Minorities by myself, Rinya P. Khangra, and co-authored by Professor N. Pramodini Devi. My paper will discuss the relevance of the focus on bilingual education in minority languages from the perspective of Tangkhul and English. Tangkhul forms a small community mainly concentrated in the hill district of Ukhrul in Manipur state of northeast India. Within this area, the dominant language is the regional language Tangkhul, which has become the lingua franca among the many dialects within Tangkhul tribe. The language is indigenous to the Tangkhul people, who form a minority group of 5.7% of the total STs in scheduled tribes in Manipur. With a prevalent focus on English medium schools, the indigenous language is on the verge of being confined to verbal communication with little scope for literary, media, and economic development. Language is an important component of forming one's identity and culture. This paper recommends the use of Tangkhul alongside English as the co-medium of instruction, if not mainly Tangkhul to be used from the primary stage, and later incorporating English as the medium of instruction along with the study of other
Please read. Yeah, just tell us in brief. It's a research paper.
Okay, ma'am.
Objective, the findings. Please don't read everything from the slide.
Yeah, it will become too difficult to finish.
Tangkhul as a minority language.
Yeah, just brief your paper.
According to the 2011 census, out of 1,167,422 STs in Manipur, Tangkhul consists of 1,78,568 persons, about 5.7% of the state's population. They are concentrated in the Khul district of Manipur and settled in isolated hilly regions and mostly base their livelihood on agriculture. Christianity is a major religion of the Tangkhuls. Coming to the language policy in India and Indian Constitution on minority language, Articles 21.1 and 31 states has emphasized the importance of
these things are known to us. You can someone answer the program. These are known to us. Yeah, go to the next.
Need for language conservation and the role of school. Languages are maintained when their functional load is retained or increased, but endangered when their functional load is reduced. With each loss of a domain, there is a loss of vocabulary, discourse patterns, and stylistic range. The education system will play a crucial role in maintaining languages' core domains. The sense of culture, identity, and self-worth of children is intimately linked to the possibility to use their mother tongue. The dropout of children from school and their poor achievement may be due, at least in part, to the educational system's rejection of the linguistic and cultural resources that children bring with them. There are three models as identified by Joshua Fishman. They are enrichment bilingual education, transitional bilingual education, and language maintenance bilingual education. In brief, enrichment bilingual education efforts are made to preserve and develop the native language of the minority community through the education system. And in the case of transitional bilingual education, minority language instruction ultimately plays only a transitional role in modern education.
Which one are you recommending?
Functioning as a linguistic crutch.
Which one is your recommendation for the Tangkhuls? What is your
These are the three models available for bilingual education.
No, what is your
advantages and challenges?
Please go right.
Okay, these are the three models available for bilingual education. According to the convenience of the teachers, they can apply these three kinds of models. There are many advantages and challenges of bilingual education, as briefly stated here. Coming to the power-related dimensions of minority languages and their access to education, according to Garcia, the power-related dimensions affect the possibility that minority languages education will be developed and successfully implemented with official support. When a language is rated high in status by its users and yet also regarded as a language of solidarity to be used between minority language groups, well regarded as appropriate for expressing referential as well as social meaning, it is much more likely to be maintained. Now, my recommendations for effective bilingual education in the context of Ukhrul is listed below. Institutional support and language planning are of fundamental importance when it comes to minority education. A widely recognized problem regarding minority language education that needs to be addressed is the availability of high quality teaching material and skilled minority language teachers. The practice of introducing English as the only medium of instruction from the primary level should be replaced with bilingual medium of instruction. That is, both Tangkhul and English should be used as a medium of instruction. Tangkhul may be used as a transitional language where students may upgrade to English only medium instruction in higher grade. Children beginning school should always start with their mother tongue majority of the time. Few English words may be added. Bilingual education is the main channel for minority language students entering the class. We must understand bilingual education from the point of view of inheritance and developing one's culture. The profound significance of bilingual education is maintaining and developing one's culture and must be instilled in the minds of the students so that as they develop, they will not look upon one language as inferior or another superior to one another. We need more administrative support for bilingual programs in schools. Teachers need to be competent bilinguals with high levels of Tangkhul and English proficiency so that they can respond to pupils' needs. If the schools take the minority language seriously as a subject, the minority language will be taken seriously like other subjects. Curriculum can be further developed to meet the needs of multicultural learners. The study of status quo of multilingual education can make a great contribution to the design of more relevant language policies, teaching practices, and learning resources. Further developments can include investing funds in Tangkhul language medium schools, bilingual education programs, full bilingualism in public administration on local and regional language level, and Tangkhul language media. In conclusion, I'd like to say that India is a typical...
Just a minute. I think you're reaching a very important conclusion about the things, but I'm finding that you seem to have no place for Meitei, which is the official language of the state of Manipur. You don't seem to want that in your curriculum at all. So you're talking about bilingual education of Tangkhul and English only, but you're planning to exclude Meitei as access to Meitei to your children. Is there a reason, argument for that?
Okay, according to the three-language formula, every child is supposed to learn three languages in their school career. That is English, their regional language, English, and Hindi. In the case of Tangkhul, Tangkhul students, the first language becomes their mother tongue, that is Tangkhul, and second language becomes English, and the third language is either Hindi or Manipuri. They are both learned in the early stages of education.
You are teaching some Meitei.
Manipuri, yes.
We're done with your presentation.
Yeah, I think she is. I think she has run out of time. I think she's made the basic points about bilingual program, and there's not much. There was an important point she talked about involving the majority for that in the write-up. But here the majority community is the Meiteis in Manipur context, but there's a sort of a distancing from the language. How can you involve the minorities in supporting the minorities? The majority in supporting the minorities. That question will survive. We will come back to this question later. Let's go to the, you think about it, we'll come back to it. Let's go to the next presentation.
Yes, the next presenter, Mohammad Shahjahan Ahmed. Are you there? Are you in?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, the title of the paper is Revival of Endangered Languages, a case study on Deru, minority language of Assam. Please start your presentation.
Yes. Famous slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Yes, ma'am. Is it visible?
Now it was visible. Now again it disappeared. We try again.
Okay, ma'am.
Try again, it was visible.
You just pulled it out. It was there. We were reading it, and you just read it.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. The presentation topic is revival of endangered languages, a survey on Deuri, a minority language of Assam. In introduction part, an endangered language is one that is likely to become extinct in the near future. It is a risk of falling out of use in speakers die out or shift to speaking another language. For a variety of reasons, speakers of many small, less dominant languages stopped using their heritage language and began using their another. Deuri people and their language. Deuri actually spoken in the district of Dibrugarh, Sibsagan, Dhemaji, and Arunachal Pradesh. They have been living for the centuries of the river size Divan. And there are four groups of Deuri people: Divangya, Tengapania, Borguya, and Patargaya. But out of them, four community, this Tengapania, Borguya, and Patargaya have abandoned their language and they have assimilated to Assamese. Only Divangya people have retained their language. Data and fieldwork. The present paper is prepared on the basis of primary data collected after carrying out extensive fieldwork and method adopted the accumulation necessary data interview method, observation method used in the field. The fieldwork was carried out in the village of Lakhimpur, Dhemaji, district of Assam. And identifying endangered languages. Well, there is no definite threshold for identifying language endangered. The three main criteria is used: the number of speakers currently living, the mean average age of native and fluent speakers, the percent of young generation acquire fluency with their inquisition. According to UNESCO, in the list of endangered languages, 197 languages of India are considered to be the endangered. Of course, this is the list of free from mistakes and considers Boro, Mizo, Meitei, which are co-official official languages of states endangered. The list includes Deuri also. Deuri is a Tibetan language, and when two people Deuri meet in marketplace, most of the time they use Assamese in conversation. Assamese is MT or L1 for Deuri people. Although Deuri is getting primary education through Assamese, as Deuri is not used in subject or medium of instruction. Although Deuris are fluent speakers of Assamese, but three of the Deuri variety have lost their language and speak only Assamese. Language vitality and Deuri. As per UNESCO Language Vitality and Endangered Language 2003, there are 6 major evaluative factors of language vitality, none of which should be reached by Assamese. These factors are intergenerational language transmission, number of speakers, the proportion of speakers within the total population, shift in domains of language use, and the response of new domains, media, and materials. Intergenerational language transmission, whether the language transmitted from one generation to next. Fishman 1991 called it gold standard. Degree of endangerment, there are 6 levels: safe, unsafe, definitely endangered, severely endangered, critically endangered, and extinct. Encyclopedia of World Languages categorized Deuri as severely endangered language, has explicitly listed Deuri as a definitely endangered language. Absolute number of speakers. A small community is always at risk. They easily merge with the neighboring groups, giving up their own language. Deuri has total 32,376 speakers out of the 2 lakhs population. Deuri language, which has in a process of language shift because of close proximity and constant contact with the Assamese speakers. The village of this community are settled in the vicinity of Assamese villages. When they come in contact with Assamese speakers at the market, they communicate Assamese. Proportion speakers within the total population. The number of speakers of the ancestral language in relation to the total population of ethno-linguistic group is significant indicator of language vitality. Shift in domains of languages, where with whom a language is used with range of topics speakers can address by using the language as a direct effect of transmission to the language next generation. Deuri has definitely ended as most of the children this community shifted towards Assamese, so Deuri lost ground and Assamese gained. Materials of language education and literacy. Education is the language is essential for language vitality. In general, literacy is directly linked with the social and economic development. Deuri don't have script of its own. Assamese and Roman scripts are used. Though Deuri was taught in schools in Assam, is not used in medium of instruction nor finds any important curriculum. No orthography available in the community. Deuri books are written in non-native speakers as well as there is no quality check through Deuri Sahitya Sabha. Apart from these 6 factors, the following 3 factors are also equally important. They are governmental and institutional language attitude and policies, including official status and use, community members' attitude toward their language, and amount of quality of documentation. Present scenario of Deuri language. Unfortunately, we don't see anything positive in Deuri as far as these 3 factors are concerned. It is not getting any governmental help, no official status. The native speakers' attitude is also responsible for sorry to state of affairs this indifferent. The amount and quality of documentation on Deuri is equally negligible as a few written texts are available. A very small section of the Deuri community is concerned about their language. There are so many steps are taken for this revitalization. The improvement in position of Deuri depends on the initiative taken by language. So the first step towards building the position of its sake to its degree of loss Deuri and to go for linguists and speakers who would see the documentation and educational program as research and preserve them for the future use. If possible, the pre-planned program reading and writing Deuri should be introduced in the village so the younger generation should learn their ancestral language and the language should only be the medium in all socio-cultural occasions. In consideration of this could be enable Deuri speakers to regain their expertise in the language and cultural essence of language. In conclusion, Pearl, can we say that based on the previous discussion, it can be said that Deuri is an endangered language and it's spoken very few old speakers and there are very less amount of intergenerational language transmission. The domains of users are shrinking day by day and other languages are regularly being used in various socio-cultural settings. Once a language appears threatened to be endangered, there are 2 necessary steps that need to be taken in order to preserve and rescue the language. The first is language documentation and the second is revitalization. Language documentation is the process by which the language is documented in terms of its grammar, its lexicon, and its oral history and tradition. Language revitalization is the process by which a language community through a political community activities, digital and educational means attempts to increase the number of active speakers of the endangered language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there was, the confusion at one time between Deori and Sutia. But Sutias are the people who I think have completely given up speaking the native language, as I recollect. And did you meet a person called Sangeeta Saikia? She was working on Deori language.
Yes. I didn't mean I find his thesis in internet actually.
Okay.
She's working in Calcutta University.
Sangeeta Saikia.
Yes.
Because she was working with us in the Central Institute of Indian Languages, and I have myself visited the Deori areas. I know it's a very difficult situation there. We'll come back and return to this thing towards the end. Let's have the next speaker.
Okay.
The next presenter is Saraju Bala Devi from NERIE. The title of the paper is Bringing Mother Tongues in Schools of Northeast India, Issues and Concerns. So I request Saraju Bala to kindly start her presentation.
Good morning, the chairperson, the lead speaker, and the other delegates which are here. The title of my paper is Bringing Mother Tongues in Schools of Northeast, Issues and Concerns. Here I would like to begin with the kind of Indian multilingualism. Indian multilingualism is, we all know that we have lots of mother tongues, like for example,
the Shahjahan Ahmed's presentation is still showing. He should take it out. I mean, he should remove that first. The presentation is still showing on the screen. The previous speakers, the Deori speakers. We should remove that. Tell that person to. Shahjahan Ahmed, you have to remove. You have to stop presenting.
Shahjahan
Shahjahan, kindly remove your presentation, your PPT, your slides. Shahjahan, are you there? Kindly remove.
Yes, he's not there. He's left, and he's left the presentation also. So I don't know what to do about it. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yes. You can start. Continue with your presentation.
This is just a repetition, but still, I just want to say that in the 2011 census, we have 19,569 road returns. And the kind of problem which we begin with the mother tongue education as such is languages in India are hierarchically ordered. We have seen 22 scheduled languages, few more are step or languages, few more are associate official languages. What happens is very few population, 33.29% of the population speak the other languages, and other languages are very much, for example, except if we minus the scheduled languages, so many hosts of languages are left with. So the problem which I would like to pose here is, I won't go next. The problem, we have been seeing that mother tongue should be brought into school education. We say that mother tongue is the base medium of school education. It has been said right from Kothari Commission to the NCF 2005, RTE Act 2009. Then again, we have NEP 2020. It goes on saying so many things. But the reality again here is the constitutional, so many constitutional safeguards are also there. I don't need to mention. I would like to come to the issues and concerns which the people will be addressing. Now, how are we preparing ourselves for the hundreds of minority languages to bring into the school system? Yes, we have been trying, we have been continually doing, but the problem again is, are we prepared to carry forward the real essence of bringing mother tongues in the schools, or are we confused? After some years, we will be blaming the mother tongue, something of no use, helping neither in the cognitive development of the child nor able to preserve and develop the languages. Why I am saying is, the kind of these issues, my paper will be focusing on these issues. I just want to show portray the Indian scenario on the mother tongue education, the kind of non-preference. I just want to begin with the six educational, all India education, school education surveys, which has been continually showing a decline rate. In the year 1970, there were 81 mother tongues included in the school system. It has reduced into 67 in the year 1976. It has reduced again to 48 in the year 1978. It has further reduced in 1990 to 44, and in 1998, 41. The 6th All India School Survey data indicates 33 languages are taught in the primary, which has been reduced from 43 from the 5th survey, which is again in the secondary, in the upper primary, 25 languages versus 25. In the 5th survey, 21 languages in the secondary is against 22 in the 5th survey, is against 18 languages, is against 20. And the 07 All India survey data is a little bit confusing. Here, 22 languages are shown, including 9 smaller languages are taught. But again, the point which we need to look into the All India survey of school education also, here it is stated that 15 languages plus others include numbering 47 are taught in the primary level. This 27 remains up to the higher secondary, 22 in 15 in the primary, 11 in the upper primary, 18 again in the secondary, and 13 again in the higher secondary. Now, a point which I just wanted to mention here, how the number has increased in the secondary is, say for example, in Manipur, though the languages are not taught in the primary and upper primary, thousands of students have taken up their subject as a subject to be appearing in the class 10 examination. Probably they are getting more marks, and I don't know that the reason which is behind. And when we situate the problem here in the Northeast, leaving aside the Indian scenario, what has been seen in the Indian Northeast is out of the around 125 languages of the Northeast, 50 have been reported to be taught in the national report of the National Commission of Linguistic Minority in the 48th report. Sadly, But what happened is, again, from 48 report onwards, we are not getting the real number of languages which are taught in the school, because many states are not reporting on the area which languages are taught. This is a very sad situation which is happening in Northeast. And the reason why, we look into the reason why so many languages, 50 languages are taught in the school system of Indian Northeast is maybe because of the constitutional provisions, maybe because of the other initiatives, as we say in RTA, SSA, RMSA, all those schemes, and most importantly, the recent trend of the identity assertion phenomena in the Northeast. Now, let me just highlight the number of languages which are taught in the Northeast. Arunachal Pradesh has 7 plus 3. 7 is reported to be the tribal languages, and 3 is Assamese, Bengali, English, Hindi, Bhutis, and all those big languages. Then Assam has 12 plus 5. Manipur has 13 plus 4. The number which comes after plus is the major languages. And Meghalaya is said to have 2 plus 4 languages, Mizoram 4 plus 4, Nagaland 17 plus 2, Tripura 4 plus 3, Sikkim 10 plus 3. Now, the problems, though we have a very high number of languages including in the school system, the problem when we look into the mother tongue education as such is languages are recognized as subject of instruction. There is a high preference of English medium school, which is always there in the Indian scenario. Manipur has 71.1% of the students going to the English medium school. Meghalaya has 54.3%. Nagaland has 40% as per the ESSER report. Then problem of implementation of 3-language formula, again, though blames has been gone to the 3-language formula for the kind of language hierarchization, for the kind of language, the minority language being neglected, the classical languages being neglected. But again, there is again problem in the states of Northeast like Sikkim, Nagaland, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, they say English is their first language. I don't know the reasons known to them. And okay, the problems which I want to highlight is the inclusion of language in the school system. As I have seen in the Northeast, it is rather a status quo. The general public is happy to include their language in the school syllabus. The pressure group which demanded inclusion celebrates success in making the language a part of the school syllabus. After this, no one cares about what is happening in the language within the larger social system. No one has looked into the classroom process, the teacher appointment process, and the material. And also, developing of teaching learning material is difficult, maybe because people are not aware, people are not sensitive, people do not want it, or I don't know the reason. And there is a preference, there is a trend of non-preference of empties. The next comes research. This is related to the research which I have conducted in NERIE. Larry, next one. This is research which I have done in the Northeast states, revealed that many people are not aware, many people are not really sensitive on the mother tongue education. Now, the reason, if we have to conclude here, is like language are used as markers of identity only, but not a preferred choice of education. Preference is of the English medium school, maybe because education is a parental choice and there is a hierarchical picking order of languages that is there. Then next one. But having said that, it's very early. It will be too early to say that we are not preferring mother tongue education. The point to be cautioned here for the newly emerging smaller linguistic community, for the like many languages are going to emerge because of the identity consciousness phenomena, maybe because of the the competition which is happening in the smaller groups. In the school system, as a part of greater consciousness, many languages will be coming, and how do we retain, how do we sustain them? That is a big question. Understanding the importance of the preserving of mother tongue in education, that is something which we need to a kind of real sensitization process, a kind of overhauling approach in the whole system of school education in bringing mother tongue education. That is something that we have to look into, and we should. I think that we should stop languages to bring using as an identity, as a marker of identity. Only for identity, you are including hundreds of languages. Say, for example, the people, in fact, are confused or are not aware, are not being sensitized properly. That is something which we, as a the apex body, we need to really look into. The community and the responsible state government as a whole need to think for a proper language planning in terms of which needs to maintain the corpus to be used and for the developing of the languages for further skills and the acquisition planning as well. If we really do not plan the process of bringing mother tongues in the school, then the kind of failure which we have seen in the Bishnupriya language, the kind of failure which we have seen in missing, the kind of failure which we have seen in the Manipuri tribal languages also, that is something which we are not expected to be seen, but cannot forego it also. So, in conclusion, what I wanted to say is there are problems in implementing mother tongue-based multilingual education in the state of Northeast. It is too early to say that mother tongues are not preferred by the community. What we need to relook, if we at all have to bring mother tongues in the school, is the planning. The corpus, the process, the choices, and the preferences are something which we need to really work hard. The teaching learning material, the teacher training process. Yesterday we have been talking about the kind of multilinguality in the classroom. Who will be handling when we really do not have teachers at all? The bridging process, of course, there will be hierarchization of language, there will be hierarchical ordering, and there will be differences in the knowledge system that is available in particular tribal languages, the minority languages and the majority languages.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is I just want to thank you. This is the most important paper as far as I'm concerned. This is the most important paper for the seminar because it identifies the heart of the issues involved in Northeast. And I think it's the most important paper as far as I'm concerned in the seminar because it focuses and tells us exactly, and it owns its problems. You're owning the problems of Northeast in different communities and labeling them. You're telling us the actual scenario there. I think this is the paper which needs to become develop into a base paper and our interaction or discussion should take this as one of the most important papers that has been presented in this. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes. Let's have the next one.
Yeah, the next presenter is Shilpi Phukan. Shilpi?
Yes, ma'am.
There?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yes. The paper is on multilingualism and tea tribe community of the Lujan Tea Estate.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shilpi Phukon, and my paper is on multilingualism and tea tribe community of Dolojan Tea State. The paper is analyzed on a first-hand survey conducted in the area on 29th January 2020, and it focuses on the languages coming into contact among the 5 different age groups, which are categorized as Group A, which consists of people of age 5 to 14, Group B, 15 to 20, Group C.
Shilpi, kindly on your camera.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, carry on now.
Okay. Group C, which is 21 to 30, Group D, 31 to 40, and Group E, 41 to 50. So, in this paper, I tried to highlight the existing multilingual setup in the state and the factors which promotes them, and how the different age groups react to multilingualism as a phenomenon. And I also tried to highlight the positive and or negative attitudinal values of the community when it comes to switching from one language to the other. So the T tribe communities has been commonly defined as the multi-ethnic groups who are the descendants of tribal and backward castes brought by the British colonial planters as indentured laborers from the predominantly tribal population dominated regions of the present day Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh into colonial Assam during the period of 1960s to 1990s. The total population of the T tribe community in Assam is estimated to be 6.5 million, out of which about 4 million of the total population reside in the residential quarters provided by the tea state. And here I would like to mention an important fact that, we often mistake them to be one single community, whereas they are a composition of various different, they are from different ethnic backgrounds, speaking different languages, having different cultures and traditions. So it is important for us to, to understand that, they are not one single community, even if we often, mistaken them to be one. And the major languages that is spoken in the tea gardens of Assam are Sora, Oriya, Kurmali, Kui, Santali, Kurukh, Kharia, Gondi, Mundari, Telugu, and Maji. But when it comes to communication, the lingua franca like Sadri, which is a language with an influence of Assamese and Hindi, serves as the major language among the heterogeneously coexisting community. So this area where I have done the survey is one such example. It is located in the eastern part of Golaghat district in Assam, which is one of the most leading sellers of tea in the region. And as I have mentioned, I have focused the survey on the based on the age factor and not depending on their educational qualification or profession. And I'll keep it very brief, sir. What I have found after the analysis is that, when it comes to the first group, Group A, which consists of people from group age of 5 to 14, they are mostly comprised of students. And the major languages that come into contact in this group are Sadri, Oriya, Mundari, Assamese, Hindi, Nepali, and English. However, English is mostly confined to students who are studying in boarding schools where the medium of education is English. In this group, 3 of the 6 respondents are continuing their studies in English medium schools. 2 are continuing their studies in neighboring vernacular medium schools, and one of the 6 respondents is a school dropout. Here, when asked which language they prefer to choose and prefer to use as the first language, most of them said that they prefer to use Assamese as the first language because most of the time, when it comes to communicating with their peers or teachers or to anyone around them, they use Assamese the most, even more than their mother tongue. So, 5 out of the 6 respondents said that Assamese is their first preference, whereas the school dropout, he said Sadri is his first preference over his mother tongue Mundari. And in this group, we can see that the preference is based on the usage, and there are no such attitudinal differences or anything when it comes to, shifting from one language to the other. When it comes to the second group, this group is a mixture of students and people who are working mostly outside the tea state. And the major languages that come into contact here are Oriya, Sadri, Mundari, Nepali, Boro, Hindi, Bengali, and English. In terms of the second group, so many languages we see are coming into contact because most of the people are employed outside the tea state. And the neighboring communities are mostly Assamese, Bengali, Boro speaking communities. And so here the people, yes, sir. So all like in this group, all the 6 respondents are comfortable with Sadri and prefers it over their respective mother tongues. But when I asked them, on what basis are they giving the preference, then they said that their answer, which was initially Sadri, shifted to they said that they prefer Assamese to use the most because that is the language that they come into most contact with, and they use it more for the most of the hours during the day. So they changed their answers, which was initially Sadri. Then they said that the first preference is Assamese, of course.
What about the last group, the older age group? Yeah, tell us about this.
Yeah, so the older age group, I found it very different because this group was mostly comprised of people who never went outside the state. I mean, they were mostly employed inside the state. So the major languages coming into contact were Mundari, Oriya, Sadri, and Bhumij, which was very less in number. And there are some other languages like Majhi also, which I would like to mention here that, Majhi is not a native tribe of this particular tea state, but they have mentioned that in the recent years, a lot of marriages have happened, where the groom or the bride was a Majhi speaker. So that is how they learned, the other speakers have learned the language like from like generation wise. But originally, like you cannot find the tribe to be there. And sir,
I'm afraid we're running out of time. It's just past one. I think we still have another presentation to go, isn't it? And I've really enjoyed listening to the demographic figures and the issues that are involved there. And as you must know, for us, every individual is important, not only every community and every language. Finally, we would like to reach each one, if possible, with the program. So everybody's equally important. So but it's very difficult to plan at individual level, but that must remain the goal of good language planning. For every individual has to be reached. Anyway, we'll wind up here, and if there is still somebody in the presentation to make, we'll switch to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
On video. So we have the last presenter of this session, that is Naeem Rashid Gujru and N. Pramodini Devi. The title of the paper is Gojri Language, Teaching in a Multilingual Situation, Urdu as official language and Kashmiri as regional language. Naeem Rashid. Okay, start presentation.
Am I audible, ma'am?
You are definitely audible, but yes, you are audible. Just give us the presentation. You are trying to the presentation.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, it is.
Hello.
Yes, it's visible. You carry on.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon to all of you. Okay, my topic is on Gojri language teaching in a multilingual situation, Urdu as official language and Kashmiri as regional language. Before going to discuss Urdu language or Kashmiri language, I hope all of us know about Urdu language and Kashmiri language from the word Kashmiri. It's obvious that is the language of the majority of the Kashmiris. So my concern here is regarding Gojri language. So I will directly go towards the Gojri language introduction and the Gujars. So Gujars, in introduction, are traditionally nomadic people. Grimm states that Gujars widely inhabit the hilly areas of Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan. They are scattered widely throughout the northern subcontinent. Gujars are, as we know, nomads who had settled in the present state of Rajasthan at some point of time in the past. Before the arrival of Gujars in the subcontinent, they were the inhabitants of Georgia, a territory situated between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea in the South Union. Some scholars also of the view that Gujars are descendants of Kushan and Yuchi tribes, which are considered to be the tribes of Eastern Tatar. However, nothing can be said with certainty about their origin. That remains yet to be contested. So, going forward, we'll talk about Gojri language. The Gojri language belongs to the Indo-Aryan language family. It's one of the oldest languages of the South Asian subcontinent. The language belongs to the Rajasthani language, closest relative of Dogri, Pahari, Punjabi, and Haryanvi. In the Linguistic Survey of India, Grayson states that, quote, one of the two things is quite certain. Either Gojri is for Rajasthani and Kannadi as form of Gojri and resembles Gojri to is certain, but still closer the resemblance of Gojri dialect of some distance from Mewar and separated from the state by the territory of Jaipur. Unquote. Gojri speaking areas. If we talk about Gojri speaking areas, Khujuria writes that the regions of Gojri speaking areas starts from Gujarat and Kathiawad and are spread over Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Ganga and Jamna, in Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, mountains and forests of Jammu and Kashmir, Garhwal, the mountains region of UP now, present Uttarakhand, Dehradun, Chakrota and Trai of Nepal have Gojri speakers. And on the other side, in Pakistan, Gojri is spoken in Hazara, Sunat, and Chitral. Of course, it's also spoken in the other part of the Kashmir that's under the Pakistan control. So, the methodology is applied for the research is based on both primary as well as secondary sources. Primary source, of course, involves the survey of various schools that I went to survey during this study, during the investigation of this research. And the secondary sources include the census of India, different central and state government reports, and various articles and research papers published by the scholars. Studies are, however, limited here, and it's limited to about the Gujars living in Kashmir Valley of Jammu and Kashmir state. The region of Jammu is not included in the present study. Objectives is to include Gojri in the school curriculum as a compulsory subject in the areas where the majority speaks it natively. To introduce it as a medium of instruction at the primary level of schools where there is demand for it. To develop and promote it through the mode of education to help in preparing the basic textbooks for teaching of Gojri. Gujars in Jammu and Kashmir. No, Gujars, it's believed that they settled in the hills of Jammu and Kashmir during 5th and 6th century AD in search of adequate grazing pastures and meadows for their livelihood because they mostly rear cattle stock, they depend on livestock. So it's believed that historical facts also tell us that during the 5th and 6th century AD, there were some floods and famine in the areas of Gujarat, Kathiawad. So this time they prefer to move towards the pastures and the Shivalik hills of Jammu and Kashmir. The arrival of Gujars in Jammu and Kashmir is attributed to the outbreak of devastating droughts and famines in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Kathiawad. There are archaeological evidence to prove that there was a spell of dryness in the 6th and 7th century in Rajasthan and Gujarat, which led to the out-migration of these people who, along with their cattle, entered the pastures of Shivalik and sub-Himalayas. Population and status of Gujars. Gujars and Bakrwals here, I would like to subtribe of Gujars, form the third largest ethnic group of Jammu and Kashmir that constitutes to 8.1% of the total population of the state, according to Census 2001. According to the Indian Census of 2000 description, Gujar is the most populous scheduled tribe in Jammu and Kashmir, having a population of around 7,63,000. Their population is more in Jammu division as compared to Kashmir Valley. Socially, they are very backward, and for their upliftment, they were notified as the scheduled tribe with the Constitution Order Amendment Act 1991. So, before I move to the main findings, I would like to mention a little bit about the language policies that were adopted in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. In 2001, Jammu and Kashmir introduced a language policy that quotes, I will quote here simply, at the primary school level, both in the government and private schools, basic knowledge of script and phonetics of the regional language, namely Kashmiri, Dogri, Ladakhi, Bodhi, and Punjabi, will be imparted in areas where such languages are spoken as mother tongue. Another clause of the same order, Pahadi and Gojri, Balti, and Dardik were also introduced in the same pattern. We forward, but in this language policy that was introduced in 2001, there was some confusion, and that confusion was removed in another language policy 2006. But unfortunately, these language policies do come on, but it creates more confusion rather than to solve the problem. However, the language policy adopted in 2006 says, I quote, sanction is accorded to the introduction of 6 mother languages, namely Kashmiri, Dogri, Punjabi, Gojri, Pahadi, and Bodhi in the areas where such languages are spoken as mother tongue from class first in all government / private or recognized institutions of the state from the current academic session. Now, moving towards the observations of Gojri language teaching, although in Kashmiri, what I found, what are the findings while surveying the schools of both government and non-government schools in the Gojri as well as in the non-Gojri areas, and what is the situation there, how the Gojri language is taught. What I was found that, as we know, the Kashmir language is a prevalent multilingual society. There are different languages spoken, Kashmiri language spoken, there is Urdu language as official language, there is Pahari language also spoken, there is Punjabi also. So this is a multilingual situation. In this multilingual situation, Gojri is facing the issues of language prestige, promotion, and language development because it has been reduced to a language of no prestige. It has become a language of an inferior language. It's facing the onslaught of the official language Urdu. and the regional language Kashmiri. That is the first language of the dominant population of the Kashmir Valley, because although being the official language, it has got all the official patronage, it's used in the media, and it has all the funds, everything. And Kashmiri being the dominant language of the population there. So under this, Gojri has got entangled in this situation. While something that I found is that English, Urdu, and Kashmiri that is being taught in both private as well as in government-run schools from primary level, and in some schools Arabic and Punjabi was taught, because in some schools they prefer to teach Arabic as their Islamic term, or and in some schools run by the Khalsa movement they teach Punjabi as it's related to their culture. So it's also creates a kind of confusion for the Gojri language to develop and to be promoted, because already a load of many languages there. In this scenario, Gojri remains fully neglected when it comes to its inclusion in the school curriculum. It's not taught even in the Gojri dominant area, despite the language policy introduced in 2006 that guarantees that it should be included in the school curriculum. And one of the sad things is that, yes, sir?
I know you. Okay, you conclude. We have a minute to conclude.
Yes, I'm concluding. Students of Goji students who are learning in schools, when I talked to them during the survey, they were unaware about the script of the Gojri. What is the script of the Gojri? How is it written? So it is the situation. So importance of Gojri mother tongue, I will simply run through this. Gojri language is not only a tool of communication, but a carrier of the rich culture of the Gujar tribe, its unique identity and linguistic repertoire. Education is part through language, as we know, and as such, language gets developed through education. And in this way, I mean, Gojri means is a means of instruction at the primary level, will develop it and will promote it. The use of Gojri mother tongue in the early education of child will help in facilitating a learning process effectively. Teaching in mother tongue in primary years develops better cognitive ability. So it will help in reducing dropouts at primary level education. That's happening because of the other languages that we use at the primary level for the Gujars who have no experience, who have no exposure to other language because of living in hilly and harsh conditions. So,
so I think we'll conclude. We want to conclude quickly because the time is already.
I'm going to the problems, and then I will conclude. Some of the problems that I found is the psychological barrier, because because of the language prevalent multilingualism here, so they have no motivation to learn their own language because of this inferiority language notion about their language. So when there is no motivation, as linguistics, we know you cannot teach any language. So second thing is trans humans practice a low literacy rate because of the Gujars being nomads. They do migrations, seasonal migrations from Kashmir to Jammu and from Jammu to Kashmir. And during this, there is high dropout rates. And according to Javed Rahi, the editor of the Gojri section in the Jammu and Kashmir Academy of Art and Culture Language, he states that about 5 lakh nomadic Gujars and Bakrwals, a subtribe of Gujars, remains illiterate in the higher reaches of hills. So this is also one of the factors that not to talk of introducing Gojri at the primary level, they don't even attend the schools for formal language as formal schooling. They are deprived of that. Second one is the social economic backwardness, because it is socially they are looked down upon, because I know the majority community both in Jammu and as well as in Kashmir, they look down upon the Gujars being as the scheduled tribes. So this creates a negative situation there. As such, it does not help their language to be promoted and made and included in school curriculum and made as
okay. Let's wind up. We have understood one. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay,
did you see the work of K.C. Sharma in Gojri?
Yeah, I have seen. Yes.
Yeah, because he was a scholar from CIL who did years and years of labor of library, the work. Yeah, you should.
Yes, sir, but that's only the pedagogical grammar. But we need textbooks also that. But
the idea of how description and development go together, that's an important contribution by the linguists. All right. Thank you so much.
Sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay, now I think we've had lots of papers, and I've already made my intervening comments at various points of time. I think this session has been very, very rich as far as trying to understand the questions are concerned. And we have begun to feel the difficulties of the issues that are, those of us who want to engage with language planning and take up the issues of minorities. There are some very difficult issues. And in the last case of Gojri is a case in point about, even Kashmiri and Dogri, by the way, are not getting, though they are scheduled languages, their status in actual language use in schools is of a minority. They are a majority population. I mean, their actual status in Urdu occupies the pride of place, and English, of course, is very much the other partner. And these, we have minoritized the majority languages through our kind of planning that we have done in those areas. And giving them scheduled language status and all has not overplayed their part. There are very few schools in which authentic Kashmiri education is going on. So I think in Jammu and Kashmir, a whole lot of planning needs to be done. They are too much preoccupied with the politics of the setting. And I think we have had huge issues about that. And the ground conditions there are on different tangents all the time. So for us to do peaceful language planning there is a huge, huge challenge. But I'm very glad some of you are engaged and thinking about the smaller communities. And Gojri definitely deserves its attention. So thank you so much for taking up the cause of Gojri tribe and putting it on a national platform like this and sensitizing us that we need to own their problems and work towards them. I've already made a statement. For us, every individual is important. We would want, in the ideal, we would want to idealize, go on beyond, so that our planning will reach every individual, and we will create flexibility in our ways of teaching, so that every child is heard, every language has a place to come in, and yet, like Sarjuwala was very rightly pointing out, we should move. The serious intent of the planner must not only sort of stay put at the level of identity or getting a symbolic gain, but it move into substantive issues of taking the language forward. And out of school arrangements are extremely important before you. So I think and there was this very interesting case of in Manipur, which the languages are not taught in primary level, but suddenly they're taught in matric level because they want to avoid competing with Manipuri and Maithili. So they don't want to take the 10th examination in Maithili as the subject. So they promote suddenly Tado Koki will appear in 10th level. And they have materials already available because the languages are available with church literature, other literature, and plays. So they create 10th level materials and then they take examination in that and avoid taking exams for in Methi. But they don't want to be seen as competing with the Methi in terms of marks that they will get. They think that they will lose out with the Methis. And I think in Manipur, this whole idea of the tribal communities trying to move away from the state language, Manipuri, is a very interesting issue for us to engage. But it cannot be resolved in a seminar like this. It will require much more serious consultation, beings, involving the communities and all that. And that must be the story elsewhere also. That whenever we go to different communities and different states, involving the communities, the different stakeholders. So I've used the term collective language planning from below and sensitizing the people at the top that please allow us the flexibility. We are on the ground level, we understand the situation, allow us to develop materials at that. And I'm happy, that the from Jammu Kashmir, I'm particularly happy that you took Gojri has been mentioned because the census people have put Gojri as a mother tongue under Hindi. you know, our census people, they keep putting Sadri is under Hindi, Gojri is under Hindi, and you are planning for Sadri and Gojri. That's supposed to be part of Hindi, without involving Hindi when you plan at mother tongue level. So I think the Census of India does its own politics of categorization. So we can listen to that, but we don't have to yield to their categorization. We must work out sensitively at the level of states in consultation with the communities and take up the cause of different individuals and different communities. I think thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to be here on this platform. If there are 2 or 3 questions, and though it's already there, we will take this. Please allow us to take another 5 minutes. In case there are some pressing questions that people have of the speakers, we would like to take it up.
The floor.
If anyone has any question to somebody, one or question.
The floor is open. If anyone have any questions.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Debani. I had a question for the presenter who presented on the Deori language. And in one of his implications, he said that a very small section of the Derry community is concerned about their language at present. So I would like to know why and how did he come across to infer this? Like, how did he infer this and in the course of his research?
Okay, so the theory presenter, I think he had left that. Is he there? He can come and answer for us. I don't know whether the person is there. I think it was the Shahjahan, somebody who's there, who made the presentation for theory. And I think the figures he gave for theory were not identical with the figures of theory given in Shahjahan. Tell us that. I think the figures of theory I just saw in the census are 27,960. I thought your figures were not 20,000. You had some other figure that you had given, a little different from what I saw around that. But if you have a figure, and can you take up this question, please? Please add Shahjahan. He's not able to enter. He wants to enter the he's saying, please add me. Can the people in charge of the admin, can they add him? Can they add Shahjahan? Technical team.
Professor Bala, can you ask somebody to admit from that side? To admit Shahjahan?
Please, there is no request from his side.
He said, no, he said he wants to join. Please add me, he said.
There in the chat box, he's trying to join.
If there is some other question for some other speaker, by the time Shahjahan comes, we may answer. If there's another question for any other presenter.
He's trying to join.
Yeah, no, we will keep the question. We have already got the question, but if there's somebody else in the meantime since he's having difficulty and there is this intervening period, if somebody has a question, we'll take that first and then come back to the question. I take it there are no other questions except to the person who's not able to join.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. It's like three language system that each and every state majority of that from Jharkhand and that northeast also. While we are going to the three language system, the peoples are basically schools are forcing to take English, Hindi, and Sanskrit, but they are not getting the opportunity their mother tongue. So how we can change that mindset about those people, sir? Because I will talk about the Jharkhand. No any single CBSE school they are offering that any mother tongue language. Only these three languages. So how we can change that mindset of?
You know, we may have to evolve new forms of pedagogy. You know, if somebody wants to add his mother tongue, let's say if I'm a Punjabi speaker and I want my language as a minority in Delhi to be added to the CBSE, what I can do is I'll take a 100-mark paper in which I'll say I'll take 70 marks of Hindi and 30 marks of Sanskrit. If you want to give me a dose of Hindi and Sanskrit together, I'll take it under one subject. You give me 70 Hindi and 30 everything. Give me another marks for my Punjabi, so that I want Punjabi also. I mean, I'm not refusing learning of Sanskrit. I'm not refusing learning of Hindi, but I would like Punjabi to be added, for instance. I may want that. So the idea is creatively, let us develop possibilities. Let us not develop rigid. If they're serious about the word flexible three-language formula, then they should also allow for some flexibility of it could become 3+1. You know, at times where it's required. So there should not be a boundary. The three-language formula is only a commitment of the country to promote multilingualism, to empower people to learn official languages in addition to the state language. That's the commitment it has. But if mother tongues are being left out, then we should revise it to allow for a fourth language to be included in that. And we can shrink the space of the other two languages. So we can combine that, we can reduce the marks given to that and allow for, say, I can have 50 marks of mother tongue 50 marks of Hindi instead of taking a full-fledged 100 marks of Hindi in that, and you can count them together and give me some input for that. So I think there is scope for flexibility and new design possibilities. So we have to I think we have to redesign our thinking on these fronts.
Yes, sir. Yes, they are thinking actually CBSE schools are basically they are not keeping that particular teacher in their schools.
Yeah. So I think we should because the NCERT also is, I think, looking for good advice. I'm sure, and people at the Central Institute of Indian Language should also be there, and the state authorities, because education is on the concurrent list. The state authorities and the central authorities should partner each other, and we must take the interest and aspirations of the communities forward, and we should build up that possibility. And if the state apparatus is failing, I should say the community should also start working out of school arrangements to take the language forward. They should develop cyber communities. They should bring documentation teams. They should develop stories of that and start doing. So the work on language should not become a victim of state policy. We should liberate languages from the clutches of state apparatuses and take them forward otherwise also.
Thank you, sir. But still, that a majority of the community, of tribal community, that are first learner groups, sir. So very difficult to motivate those people.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to work. I think there are still possibilities, and we have to go there, be with them, make them enjoy that the language coming into being, putting it into act of literacy, and an act of literacy is a political act. To put choice of script is involved, choice of varieties involved. So we should be willing to do our sense of liberation, or like Paulo Freire says, this is an act of liberation, the act of literacy. So we should take that forward. So that is why this whole idea of language education is extremely important and crucial area of work for the entire country. And the new education policy, I think, should become receptive to the needs of the communities and all that. And all of us should be seen as talking collectively, not only about our mother tongues, but others which have been excluded. So let's not have a selfish view of just speaking our languages. We should care for the languages that are being left out of our own brothers and sisters who are in that ecology. It has to be like that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable suggestion. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think now we shall wind up. Thank you so much for this great session. We have had a chance to reflect and think, and I think we are beginning to make sense of the kind of problems that obtain on the ground. And there are also some solutions that have emerged, and we should be really wishing to push forward with new solutions when the context demands so. There's nothing like the last solution, and there's nothing like one size fits all, that kind of a solution. So we must work out new creative energy into our programs and redesign our thinking and believe in creating more connections across communities. And today's technology offers that great opportunity for us to bring languages into the space of technology, regardless of what the administrators think, regardless of what the leaders think. The communities can take a lead in putting the languages in another mode and challenging everybody that I am there, I want to be counted. You see, it's extremely important that we do that today. Okay, thank you so much. We will now bring the session to an end.
On behalf of NCERT and NERIE, I would like to extend my thankful regards to the chairperson and lead speaker, Professor Rajesh Sachdeva. Thank you, sir, first of all, for your wonderful speech, and secondly, for your sparing your valuable time to be with us right from the very beginning of this session till the end. I would also like to thank another lead speaker, that is Professor Mcgannathan. Thank you, sir, for again sparing your valuable time and also for highlighting very pertinent issues in your speech. I will also like to thank both the reporters, Dr. T. Numei and Ms. Sandarisha, for recording each and every proceedings of this session. I would like to also thank all the paper presenters for bringing in their presentation the real and practical problems in relation to minority language. It has been a very enlightened session. We have all learned from this session. Myself being not from a language background, but I thank the presenters. I've learned from the leaders, from the lead speakers, from both the lead speakers, and I've learned from all the paper presenters. So we have come to the end of this first session of the second day of the national seminar, and we will again assemble here at 2:00. I thank once again everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I will rejoin you at 2:00. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you all. See, I'm forgetting mine.
Hello. Hello, everyone. We are resuming the session at 2 o'clock. Please be here in the same platform by 2.